Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again to another episode of 4K Kings. I am Russ. With me, as always, is
Matt.
And this week, we're going to discuss the usual suspects, new releases from Arrow and Scream Factory, another round of Name That Willis. We're going to talk Tarantino and give you our top fives.
And we're back.
We are.
We're back. Welcome back, Russ.
Oh, thank you, Matt. Welcome to you, too.
Thanks. And this is another week at Blu News Reviews, and this is a very special show. Do you know why it's special, Russ?
Tell me.
We hit 1,000 subscribers since our last videos have been put up, and it's awesome.
My life has changed drastically. I don't know about yours.
I've already quit my job
Yes.
in anticipation of all the great things that are to come.
I was already unemployed. So this is this is a beacon of hope for me.
It is. But no, in all seriousness, it is a pretty awesome milestone. I was pretty, I saw that we were getting close, but when we finally got there, I really sat back and thought like, wow, that is a pretty amazing milestone that we've hit, considering we've only done this channel for about a year now, like a little bit more.
Yes.
And obviously we wouldn't be here or making it this far without everybody out there that has decided to subscribe, decided to check out our videos, decided to like and click all the buttons up there that we've got. So a big thank you to all of you for sticking with us. Honestly, without all the kind remarks and feedback and people reaching out, I don't know that we would be continuing the way that we have been. I mean, I know that when we first started this thing, it kind of like it was slow going. And now that we're at where we're at, I think all that support and that love that we do get, I think makes me want to continue to provide the best possible content that we can. I mean, I don't know how you feel. I know
well said. I have nothing to add to that. Click the like button, subscribe to us if you haven't already, get notifications.
Of course. And we are extremely proud of this and extremely proud to keep on going forward into hopefully 5,000 will maybe be our next goal.
So what did we promise that we would do after achieving 1K?
So this 1,000th episode, that'll be something. Now, this 1,000th subscriber episode has been a long time coming, and we've teased pretty much since the beginning that we would, force you all to see our review and our reaction to the movie A Serbian Film.
Which I've never seen. This will be
You have not.
An actual reaction video.
So we're gonna
not just a regurgitation like, oh, let me put on the jokes for you. I've already seen it. I'm going in cold. I know nothing. Actually, the only thing I know about A Serbian Film, I believe it includes baby rape.
We're going to leave that as a spoiler and not, go into those types of territories for now. There is definitely going to be a lot of sexual inappropriateness and things that I don't know if we'll like to see when we get there, but we will provide this to everybody who's been not really asking for this. I don't know why we promised this for so long.
Nobody's asking.
Nobody's really asking. There is a reason.
This is a celebration for us achieving 1K subscribers. This is not for you.
It is, and I think there is a reason why I'm interested in doing this, and it kind of goes back to a video that we did a long time ago. We'll probably talk more on that in the actual Serbian Film segment, as to not bore anyone here. But we will be doing this week, amongst other things, a review and reaction to A Serbian Film. Thanks for hitting that 1,000 subscriber to us.
Thank you all. Thank you kindly.
Yep. In addition to that, we thought that we would do another giveaway to one lucky subscriber that we have in the audience for our 1,000th subscriber celebration. And randomly, we went through all of the subscribers that we have, and we picked one lucky winner, and that lucky winner is Mozart's Ghost.
Good job, Mozart.
Mozart's Ghost, a very active member in our community, always reaching out and throwing some subtle commentary and jabs.
Rocking us, Amadeus.
Yeah, so exactly. So for Mozart's Ghost, we are going to give him a piece of merch directly from us, whether it be a t-shirt or a hoodie of your choice. We've got a few different varieties, a few different options out there that you can choose from. We'll throw those up on the screen for you to see and decide, and then reach out directly to us. We have our email in the comment box below, or in the box below with all of our information, our contact info. reach out, get us your address, get us your sizing info, get us the style that you'd like, and we'll ship that out to you free of charge. Thanks for being a loyal subscriber. So let's see. So other than that, if you are currently watching this at the exact same time, you are able to now hear this episode up on our Spotify channel. So we are going to be recording our live episode here, putting the audio up on Spotify, the uncut audio for anyone to take a listen to. And as we continue to put up the clips from that show on our YouTube channel, we will also then put up the uncut video version as well.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
I'm pumped. Let the healing begin. Movie references.
These 1,000 subscribers have really changed you, Russ. I feel like you're a changed man.
I'm closer to becoming Carlito Brigante more than ever.
Yes.
Once we hit 5K, I will just live my everyday life as Carlito Brigante.
I'm sure the fans will hold you to that if we get that far.
I know Born Distracted will.
He loves it. We all love it.
I love the encouragement. Thank you.
Thank you. So for our 1,000 subscriber episode, we're going to be talking about obviously a bunch of Blu news. We've got Usual Suspects. We got stuff from Arrow. We have stuff from Scream Factory. We're going to go and look at some of the poll winners. So we had put some polls up on our community tab for, what were some top fives that you'd want to hear from us, or what are some directors you might want to know our thoughts on. And we're going to go through Quentin Tarantino today, as well as our top 5-ish favorite movies. It's kind of a hard thing to nail down, but we'll give it our best shot. And then we're also going to have another round of everyone's favorite game show, Name That Willis.
Always a challenge. We don't know what cop he'll be. It's hard. It's a hard game.
It is a hard game. It's a hard game, but we're gonna give the fans what they want with another round of Name That Willis, and obviously a whole lot more. So let's jump right in. Russ, you ready?
I'm ready.
We're ready? Okay, so before we get started in all the good content that we mentioned, there is just a couple of updates I want to go through. Number one being the fact that it sounds like the Ghostbusters Unlimited set that we talked about in our last podcast. Not only was it limited, and if you didn't get it in the US, it is completely sold out. So I had mentioned that, I went to go get it, and the pre-order wasn't available on Amazon at the time, and I wasn't sure if it was limited, if it wasn't, if there was like another wave of these coming in. But to this day, it still says unavailable, and come to find out that it actually was limited. So if you did not get it and you were waiting to get it somewhere, you're unable to get it now.
So wait, it wasn't advertised as limited?
I don't know. It doesn't say that in the title. It did not say that anywhere in the description or anything to that effect, but it's now known that it was a limited
title. Like Ghostbusters, that's a very odd title to have a limited, like was Lord of the Rings, has there ever been like a limited set of Lord of the Rings?
I think that box set that came out was supposed to be a limited one also. That one that we covered that was actually just a cash grab, I believe that was supposed to be limited.
Supposed to be?
I think so. I don't know. I mean, I can't remember if it was or wasn't, but they had already released everything in 4K, and now it was like, here's this box set. Is it...
I'm just saying, like, I'm trying to think of another bigger title, such as Ghostbusters, that the quantities are that limited.
Yeah.
I can't think of any other
I don't know.
title. Like it'd be like if Back to the Future came out and no one could buy it.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Like that's never happened. You can still get those collector's editions online to this day. They've got like tons of different ones you can still buy.
Exactly.
But maybe this will help you get your wish, where maybe they will release just these movies with all this extra supplemental material, but without all the extra nonsense that people might not want.
I'd love to have the 84 one with just all. I mean, it seemed like all the supplemental features were geared towards the original Ghostbusters anyway.
Yeah, they were. Mainly.
So I mean, just give me that one.
Yeah. So, but for those in the US, the price did come down to $99. It was up at $150 to start with, and then it was sold for $99. So I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that are flipping this for like $200+ right now on eBay if they want to.
It doesn't even have Answer the Call. That's the one everyone wants.
Well, that's the UK one. So the UK one doesn't have Answer the Call. The American one does have Answer the Call.
It does? A physical disc of Answer the Call?
No, it just has a digital code.
I'm about to say, that's what's great. That's why it's starting to become my favorite release of this year so far. The UK, nobody in the UK got Answer the Call, even on a digital code?
Yeah, so there was a person that reached out to us in our comment section and just kind of hinted that their version from the UK actually wasn't that good. The box didn't light up. And I was like, oh, that's kind of shitty, that they would provide something different to a different market. But then I went on and kind of did some more research, and turns out that the UK version itself, there's been a lot of complaints about, not only because the box doesn't light up.
It doesn't include Answer the Call.
It has no digital code or physical copy of Answer the Call. So I'm sure people are doubly pissed about that. And lastly, it sounds like the slipcases aren't even present on the discs, or the boxes. So like the ones in the US got like a nice, the traditional no ghost, cross through sign logo, like each of them had their own, but it was like 1, 2, and 3. This one doesn't have those slips, and it's just the traditional box art. It doesn't have
3 though. It has 1, 2, and 4.
1, 2, and 4. Afterlife.
I mean, just imagine being a citizen of the UK,
yes.
opening up what's the first thing you think of when you hear Ghostbusters?
Afterlife.
Kate McKinnon. And I mean, just not having Answer the Call in there. What a fucking disaster.
What a disaster. Forget the slipcases, forget the light up box.
This is anarchy in the UK.
It is. It is. And I think the other more egregious thing that I noticed was that the price still remained at $150, but it's 150 pounds, which is more like $200 American.
That's terrible.
So you're getting so friggin' screwed here. You're getting so screwed.
Answer the Call jokes aside, that is terrible.
It is
a terrible price.
If you just said, okay, Ghostbusters 1, Ghostbusters 2, and let's say this collectible book that they gave you, let's give that like a $20 value. You're talking, for what you're going to actually watch, $90 for 1 and $90 for Ghostbusters 2. The other, Afterlife, maybe you watch Afterlife, maybe you watch Answer the Call. I don't know what's the percentage of people that are buying this set for every last movie in there,
and that's
versus
about,
number 1 and 2.
I was about to say, that's about $88 too much for Ghostbusters 2.
Too much. When it came to $99 US, when I thought maybe I was still going to be able to get it, I was like, okay, that's not so bad. Like, that's decent enough for the Dolby Atmos, the Dolby Vision, all the extra materials, the nice box. I'm like, okay, that sounds fair at least. $150 high. $200, absolutely not. No. So I guess Bustin is not making the UK feel good right about now. But even bigger news, Russ. Even bigger news, and especially big news for people that have followed this channel for a while. We've had at least 9 different stories about this, so we're gonna keep on covering it until this shit finally comes out. And that's Drop Dead Fred is finally getting a proper U.S. release. So just to rewind on the history on this just for a second, Severin was going to put this out, got all the features announced. We talked about it. We gave it its own segment. We discussed, and then immediately canceled. It was pulled off the shelves, not shelves, but it wasn't even released. No one even knows why it got canceled. We felt like maybe
we had some ideas of why it got canceled.
Yep. Kevin Kline,
yes,
definitely involved. We definitely thought that maybe he had something to do with keeping Phoebe Cates in the dark a little bit longer.
Well, he did. I remember when Severin announced that one of the supplemental features was going to be, what was it, a phone call from Phoebe Cates?
You were going to
handwritten letter.
Yes.
It was something that Klein did authorize her to do from the basement she's confined in.
It was a handwritten letter.
But rumor has it that it was a code.
It was code.
She was actually screaming for help.
Help
if you
me.
identified each first letter of the word she was using, it spelled out, "Help me. Klein has me chained to a radiator in the basement."
If Kevin you held it up like some invisible ink, like up against
like Who Framed Roger Rabbit or something. Now, Kevin Kline's people became aware of this, and they
shut that shit down.
Yes, so I'm actually surprised. Who's putting this out now?
This is Vinegar Syndrome now.
They've got balls.
They got balls
to go up against the great almighty Klein,
the great Klein,
the great Dave.
Yeah.
Well, actually, there's only one Dave on this channel, but
there was. So it was Via Vision in Australia. They did get their hands on the same movie, and they did put it out in Australia. It was region free though. I thought you could also get it here and watch it, but this is an official U.S. release from Vinegar Syndrome.
You know what's strange? I feel like a lot of Australian releases are region free. There are so many movies I've picked up from Australia that I've never had to worry about regions on.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's
like that cult cinema label. That's, I mean, it's
Umbrella.
Not like great, but yeah. I mean, they'll put out movies that have not received region A releases.
Yeah, no, but yeah, so it's going to come out, and it looks like, they're touting the same brand new 2K restoration that Severin was, but it looks like they've got every single feature on here that not only Severin was going to have, but also Umbrella. So Umbrella had like 1 or 2 different featurettes than Severin did, but it looks like Vinegar's got it all. Like they've got everything here that you were going to want. There's also a reversible slipcover, which they've got some new art that they're doing, which looks pretty good. I don't know if it's like some like chalk outline thing. It looks pretty cool. But then you've got the traditional art, and it is still coming, Russ, with the handwritten letter from Phoebe Cates.
Altered, though. This was the approved handwritten letter. They had to go through Klein's publicists, managers, gangster friends, just to make sure it's...
It says it right here.
Yeah, there's no escaping.
It says it right here. An 8-page booklet with a new text interview with actress Phoebe Cates.
A text interview. Man, who even knows if it's her? It's probably Klein responding. Let's be real. If we're not physically seeing, we have no evidence that Phoebe Cates actually participated in this. You know it's Klein on her cell phone responding.
Typing it in. Like, I'm so honored to be contacted by Severin, to write this letter.
No, go check out A Fish Called Wanda.
Kevin Kline is a kind, dutiful husband. I am in no way being held beyond...
I am well fed.
I'm well fed. So it is coming out. So again, just to wrap that story up, I guess once this finally comes out, we'll have to say, guess what, everyone? It's finally out. But for now, it's been announced again. Go for it. Vinegar Syndrome. Get it while you can. I believe this is limited to 5,000.
That's it.
Man, 5,000 only.
I was going to pick up the other one. Well, so I'm getting this one. And this situation, this happened with Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. It was a similar thing. It was announced. There was a whole crowdfunding operation that went on. They had all of these features. I forget, it was some independent studio that was doing it. I had this one pre-ordered and it got scrapped last minute just through rights issues. But a lot of those featurettes that they filmed ended up on the Arrow release.
Gotcha.
So this isn't, that out of the ordinary, I suppose. But
we'll see.
At least we're getting it finally.
We're finally getting it.
All you drop dead Fred heads out there.
Finally, you get the chance to pick it up. All right. So moving right along, before we get into any news this week, Russ, I thought we could celebrate Bruce Willis first.
Well, let's celebrate Red Letter Media from stealing our fucking gimmick.
Or was this like a channel beef?
Yes. It's the only way you can thrive on YouTube. We have to...
Channel beefs.
To attack other movie channels.
No. Well, we did our own Bruce Willis tribute, our Name That Willis episode not that long ago.
Tribute's a kind word.
It is a tribute. It was fun. I had a good time doing it. I feel like it is a tribute.
It is.
Last time, we did a little segment where we talked a little bit about Bruce Willis and what's basically happened to him over the past couple of years, where not only is he putting out bad movies, but he's putting out so many at a record pace. Like, you just don't even know what else is he doing with his time or his life other than just showing up to another movie set to film another, unless these things take like 3 days on his part to film. And then he's like gone.
They do. Of course they do. I can tell just from the trailers. It's like you came to one location, you got all these scenes shot in the span of a week, and you're out.
Exactly. And when we did this segment the first time, I thought to myself, like, wow, we're going to have to wait a while to do this again. But we really did it. We did.
Time is on Bruce Willis's side, dude.
It really is. And what's funny is when we were preparing this, just yesterday, I saw that Bruce Willis, in timing with the Oscars, as you know, the Razzies also appear, and they do their worst acting, worst films, worst whatever. They've ceremoniously given Bruce Willis his own category this year. His own category, and it was called Worst Performance by Bruce Willis in a 2021 Movie. And they nominated 8 of his films.
Wow.
His own category. Not,
Only 8?
Worst actor this year, Bruce Willis with somebody else. What's the worst of these 8 awful movies? Yeah, only 8?
Seriously, like... You got to admit, the other 34 were pretty good.
How many of them went to the theaters? We don't know.
Need to.
Yeah, we don't know. But in honor of that, him getting his own Razzie category, him putting out another whopping like 10, 12 films this year already, we're going to do another Name That Willis, where we will reveal horrendous, generic, oftentimes recycled poster art. And we'll dare you at home, and you too, Russ, to guess what is the horrendous, generic, and oftentimes recycled movie title.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
But before we jump in, a few things to note. By generic poster art, we basically mean that Bruce Willis's expression is just as lifeless as his performance is. Like each one of these, he's got just the stare that's like they cropped his head from one poster and moved it to another.
I'm gonna, you know what though? This man, as you said, it is in a way a tribute.
It is.
Because this man for what, 40 plus years now has given us all so much.
He's given us all he can give. Now he's giving us something new, something different.
And regardless of your thoughts on these films, even just Die Hard, Pulp Fiction, Sixth Sense, those are 3 classics. Whether you like them or not, they are staples. They will be talked about for years to come. He's old. Dude, movies are changing. They're not made the same way anymore. It's all streaming. It's all content. He's old. It is a paycheck. And I mean, I don't, it's not that as long as I don't have to watch these movies, it's like, let him collect a paycheck. What are you going to do? De Niro does the same shit, honestly.
Yeah, and I think
once Meet the Parents and analyze this hit, it was like, all right.
His
and you got to think, like, someone like De Niro, he wasn't making a ton of money off of Taxi Driver and Mean Streets and all that. He gave us the great art in his twilight years. Let him just have fun in his job.
Yeah.
It's a job now.
For real.
And I don't, you know, Bruce Willis, I just wish he'd wake up. But I mean, aside from that, I let him have his fun. Let him have his 3 days on a set where, you know, he just glances at the script 5 minutes prior to shooting and
coughs something out and goes back to sleeping, back to the craft food service table. I honestly think that the only reason he gets this attention, like the Razzie stuff and all these other channels that are probably doing tons of Bruce Willis content just like we are, is because of what you said. Because he is an icon, he is in classic films, and if he was a nobody, we wouldn't be even talking about this. We wouldn't even be doing this at all.
But you could say the same thing. Why Bruce Willis? You could say the same thing about Morgan Freeman. Obviously, Nicolas Cage. You could say the same thing.
Is it the speed at which he's putting these turds out?
It has to be that, because I'll even drop another bombshell on you. Leonardo DiCaprio's last movie debuted on Netflix. Leonardo DiCaprio, he's probably the last movie star left.
But he's also working with big name actors and big name directors. I don't know who the frig these people are that Bruce Willis is working with. Actually, I do. There are other C-list stars and B and D-list stars also. A, B, C, and D. A little bit of A. Not many. If you count Mike Tyson as A, then yeah.
I mean, it's just depressing to call Jonah Hill a star. So I don't know how to respond to that.
True. But moving right along, Bruce Willis often typecast as a cop, ex-cop, FBI, ex-FBI, CIA, ex-CIA.
You ever think in real life he gets confused for
military?
He's just walking around.
Ex-military?
He just walks by a police department. They're like, "Hey, Bruce, you clocking in today? You want a break?"
Sometimes as a widower. But dude, he's turning 67 years old. How is he active duty anything anymore? Like, CIA agent on the road. It's like he's
too old for
he's
this
nearly
shit.
70 years old.
Yeah.
He's not active duty. Why are they saying that? And just like you mentioned about, like, you know, Leo having his thing debut, like, who are these screenwriters that are writing these things for Bruce Willis? Is there a factory? Is there one guy? Like, I didn't do that much research, but these generic plot lines, these generic, you know, characters that get written, it's like, who is doing this? They're getting a paycheck just as much as Bruce Willis. Okay. So without further ado,
It's art.
it is art. Without further ado, let's get this party started. If you're listening to this,
Timothy V. Murphy got first billing.
if you're listening to this and you can't see the visuals at the moment, we'll try our best to do some describing of what's
All right,
going
this
on.
one is 2 bald men, one with a terrible bald mohawk.
So as always, we're multiple choice here. And every multiple choice guess that you're going to get, Russ, is the title of an actual Bruce Willis movie. This one I thought would be a good place to start because this one's a little easier. Of course, you've got Bruce Willis here looking his normal look, but he's got his sheriff's badge on the lapel. Again, he's 67 years old.
That's true, because you can't see. Wow, they had to put it on the lapel. That's a nice touch.
That is. And
this film has great attention to detail. I might check this one out.
I guess turning 67, he must be playing a man who's 55 so that he can still be some active duty sheriff. Maybe this town's kind of small. I don't know. But Russ, would you guess that this movie is called Precious Cargo, American Siege, or Paradise City?
I don't think it's Paradise City because I know there is an Amazon show, I believe, called Paradise City.
Okay.
What were the other two?
Well, Paradise City is the name of a Bruce Willis movie, even though it is an Amazon show. All of these names I'm going to give to you are Bruce Willis titles.
Would you? Who's going to think that Bruce Willis is going to be in the Axl Rose biopic? I would pay so much money to see Bruce Willis play Axl
with a
Rose. Dude, let's get all these actors together who are just straight to video. Let's get Bruce Willis as Axl, Nick Cage as Slash,
Wow.
Paradise City.
It's like the Expendables, but like you get all these people together and try to put them in a serious movie, but they're all washed up. They're like what they know they're washed up, and that's why they're being put in the movie. That's great. What do you think, Russ?
Wow. Is it really called Paradise City?
There is a Paradise City movie that Bruce Willis
this is not. So I am right so far on the question.
I have-
What
no,
were the
no,
other
no.
two options here? I apologize.
It is Precious Cargo,
Yes.
American Siege, or Paradise City.
I have to go with American Siege because there is a American flag in the background.
American Siege, you would be correct.
Yes.
American Siege. So the first one right out the gate, Russ, you're good. You got it. For those of you at home, that's the first Bruce Willis
I told you,
sheriff.
though.
Take a shot.
I told you though, man. The filmmakers here, whoever designed this poster, great attention to detail. I mean, I could guess that title without it even being on the poster.
And this is about
due to its great American exceptionalism bullshit.
Well, this is about an ex-NYPD officer turned sheriff of a small rural Georgia town who has to contend with a gang of thieves who have taken a wealthy doctor hostage. That's what that is about. Okay, moving right along.
All right.
Russ,
16 blocks.
Here we have Patrick Muldoon and Bruce Willis.
That name sounds familiar.
Yep. And here the title might be covering up Bruce Willis's badge. I'm not sure. But he's got a little bit of a salt and peppery beard here. Kind of a new look.
Is he wearing
Bruce.
eyeliner?
Or contacts. His eyes are really piercing blue here.
That looks like a 80-year-old Billy Corgan. The Smashing Pumpkins story. I like how Bruce Willis is just doing rock biopics now.
Yeah, it's great. Russ, would you would you guess that this movie is called Deadlock,
Jesus.
A Day to Die, or Apex? Deadlock, A Day to Die, or Apex?
Apex.
What gives you that impression that this is called Apex?
I can't stop looking at Bruce Willis's guy liner. I don't know. Apex. That's just, it's got to be Apex.
And it is Deadlock.
Oh, man.
An ex-military man working at a Georgia power plant has to spring into action to prevent disaster when a group of rogue soldiers gain control of the plant and take the employees hostage.
What happened to the doctor?
Was that Trauma Center? You're missing. Is that who you're talking about?
That was Paradise City.
Oh, Paradise City. I forget.
No, the America one.
Oh, American Siege?
American Siege.
Oh, the American Siege. Did it get its
Yes.
doctor rescued? Who knows? There's
Sorry,
always
Willis.
there's always more hostages to save. Moving right along, number 3. Now here we've got a wax figure of John Cusack standing next to Bruce Willis and Jason Patrick here.
It's a mocap John Cusack. Polar Express Cusack.
Polar Express Cusack, and even Jason Patrick. He's obviously been photoshopped and he's probably had work done, but he's looking
Jason
okay.
Patrick's career is probably the most depressing out of all three of these guys. At least they had it at one point. Jason Patrick was always on the cusp of being something and being pushed, and it just never quite happened.
Is there a Bruce Willis connoisseur out there that knows these movies just based on who's in them? Like the Jason Patrick, John Cusack film with Bruce Willis? Oh yeah, I know immediately what that one is. Russ, do you know what this one is? Is it Out of Death, First Kill, or The Prince? Out of Death, First Kill, or The Prince?
Out of Death.
Out of Death. And it is The Prince.
You know what's sad? We've done this before, and I feel like these are the same posters.
That's why it is this game. These are the same generic Bruce Willis faces, Bruce Willis posters, even co-stars. Like, look how generic they look. They don't look any better. Look at what John Cusack's doing. What's he looking at?
He's not even there, dude. That's an artistic rendering of John Cusack.
When his daughter is kidnapped, a retired assassin is drawn back into the life he gave up. To rescue her, he must confront his former rival.
The Doctor.
I wonder.
From American Siege.
This is a Marvel Cinematic Universe.
The Willis
Cinematic Universe.
The Willis Pathetic Cinematic Universe.
I mean, you were going to see some of these same people again. Next up, we've got Kellen Lutz. We've got Bruce Willis and Gina Carano.
He doesn't look like a cop in this one. He looks like a mafioso. Look at the black on black suit. Ooh, he's looking sharp in this one.
I'm not sure what he is.
I don't know whose body that is that they put his head on, but looking sharp.
Well, this is the story of a former CIA operative. So that could possibly be him. I don't know, but it's starring Kellen Lutz, who obviously deserves first billing here, as well as Gina Carano. And Russ, do you think this movie is called Vendetta, Extraction, or Reprisal?
Well, there's an 80s movie called Vendetta that I love.
Okay.
There's no way they would have the audacity to steal that title. This is not a women's prison film.
Okay. I can't tell for sure, but it might
Bruce Willis could star in one. I don't know. Would a prison guard be would that fit into Willis's repertoire?
Probably. Prison guard, that's law enforcement or protection. It's something.
Little Green Mile Willis action.
I'll give him that.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I got off.
Vendetta, Extraction, or Reprisal. This is before Gina Carano got canceled.
I'm going to say Reprisal. Before you tell me, though, I'm going to explain why I say Reprisal. He is not wearing a badge on this poster, so I think he has to reprise his role as a law enforcement officer in some capacity.
He's above the law in this one. You would be incorrect. It's Extraction. A former CIA operative is kidnapped by a group of terrorists. When his son learns there is no plan for his father to be saved, he launches his own rescue operation. So
yeah, I've got nothing.
So there's that. Extraction, starring Bruce Willis. Next up, we've got Jesse Metcalf, Chad Michael Murray, who is a frequent collaborator with Bruce Willis, and then of course Bruce Willis, their center. And the tagline here is, "This prison has no bars."
That's deep.
Is this the story of Bruce Willis's career? This prison has no bars. Is it his? I'm not really sure. But Russ, would you guess that this movie is titled Fortress, Fortress 2, or Fortress 3?
Son of a bitch. When you said Fortress, I was like, it's got to be that. This prison has no bars. I was like, yeah. Oh, man.
Well, which fortress is it? 1, 2, or 3?
Well, if I recall correctly, they didn't introduce Jesse Metcalf until Fortress 2.
A group of criminals hell-bent on revenge forces a retired officer and his son to save the day. He's a retired officer here.
Why can't these group of criminals just get over their revenge issues? They've succeeded, but no, they've got to fuck it up and go against the one-man army.
They got to bring Bruce Willis back.
Exactly.
Out of retirement.
One-man law enforcement army that is Mr. Bruce Willis.
Yes.
Ridiculous.
So here we are.
And you'll lose. Is this the one where in the trailer they're like shooting the house down?
That's American Siege.
That was American Siege?
Yeah.
I loved that trailer. For anyone, go watch that trailer. I mean, don't watch the movie. I'm not encouraging.
Watch all of these trailers.
Don't watch any.
All of these trailers are good.
No, that trailer, I love that trailer because that was like someone saw Last House on the Left and was like, "Hey, the house wasn't the bad guy in this shit. Let's do this right." Bruce Willis versus the house.
Yeah.
Seriously, that trailer, for anyone listening, it's just a group of guys firing, unloading weapons on a house. It's great.
Loved it.
So I'm going to go with Fortress 3. I think we're that deep into the Fortress franchise right now.
Russ, you'd be incorrect. This is just Fortress number 1. Fortress 2 is in pre-production, and Fortress 3 is planned for later in the year.
Well, so dude, I mean, Cameron's been talking about doing this for years. So James Cameron, that is.
Yes.
That was a little deep
joke. Deep reference.
Not Candace Cameron.
Candace Cameron Bure. So next up, moving right along, number 6 on the list, we've got this one with
Mark Paul Gosselaar. Holy shit. This one I might actually watch.
Now, this is a pretty trippy kind of poster that they put together for this one, but there's another poster that has Mark Paul like looking straight on, and he's holding a gun also. He just looks like a tough guy, you know. And Bruce Willis is there, giant head on this poster. Different look for Willis here. But nonetheless, I'm sure it's an outstanding film. Never steal from a thief is the tagline here. So would you say, Russ, that this movie is called Precious Cargo, Paradise City, or Gasoline Alley?
Well, it has to be Precious Cargo if it's Never Steal from a Thief.
A crime boss tries to make off with loot that belongs to another thief, and you would be correct.
Yes.
You got one.
I'm not going to get this one wrong. This is the goddamn partnership I've been waiting for since I was a child. I wanted to see Zach Morris and John McClane together. My dreams have finally come true.
I'm sure it's his dream too. Mark Paul's probably been waiting for this. He's like, wow, me, Bruce Willis, finally.
Oh, man.
Precious cargo.
If he whips out the big ass cell phone and...
I wonder who's the crime boss here.
Rest in peace, Dustin Diamond.
I'm thinking it's Bruce is the crime boss here, and Mark Paul is he the...
If Bruce is the crime boss...
Which one's the thief? Who knows?
See, you're right. This does...
I suppose it's a question.
Mark Paul Gosselaar does look like the rookie cop who's up against everyone. You know, no one believes him, but he has to go at it alone. And
I like how we haven't seen these movies and we just guess. I think that's better than actually having to watch these. I've seen all these trailers and they're all great, every one of them.
That's your fault. But
I mean, at best, I'm going to watch the trailer, and it is good.
But you're right. They have strategically only shown us Bruce's face, meaning we don't know what his uniform is on this poster.
Yes.
So I'm guessing if he is the bad guy, he is a corrupt cop.
He's corrupt. You're right. You're probably right. It's got to be right.
Yeah, this is like Serpico. This is Mark Paul Gosselaar's Serpico.
So then here we are coming up next. Here he is.
District Depression.
With Frank Grillo, one of my favorites. I mentioned him last time. Frank Grillo and Bruce Willis here. And this kind of reminds me of Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise.
Yes.
Where they're in these mechanical suits and they've got their guns, whatever, and they're on a different planet.
He's RoboCop.
He is. I mean, look at him. Obviously, he wasn't in that suit. He was not in that suit there. That's his head looking exasperated. He picked his exasperated face up.
Get away from her, you bitch. Is this Bruce Willis's Aliens?
And this is number 7 on the list here. Russ, do you think that Bruce Willis and Frank Grillo are starring in a film called Marauders, White Elephant, or Cosmic Sin? Marauders, White Elephant.
I mean, just Cosmic going Sin. Off the bonehead space poster, it has to be Cosmic Sin.
Okay. Is that your final answer?
It's my final answer.
Final answer, Cosmic Sin, and it is Cosmic Sin.
Yeah, I like how IGN is factored heavily.
Yes, it's like this is an IGN film.
IGN film.
We nabbed us a Bruce Willis, y'all.
From the studio that brought you reviews of Grand Theft Auto comes the Frank Grillo Bruce Willis
classic Cosmic Sin.
In a world
Bruce
Willis has woken up.
So this is still just as depressing as ever, but it's.
This
it's a little funnier. This is a little funnier.
This one looks funny.
This is a little funnier, for sure. I think there was the other movie Breach that we covered last time that looks very similar to this, where they're both in space, a space film.
Sure.
Number 8.
God, when does this end?
We've got Thomas Jane, another frequent.
Dude, you know it's sad
Bruce
when
Willis
I don't even recognize the names who are being top billed. Who is Amber Childers?
Amber Childers, Amber with a Y. And this is from the producers of Lone Survivor and Escape Plan. I think I saw that on another poster too, Lone Survivor producers of.
You want to hear a sad fact? I've seen Escape Plan.
That's pretty sad. That is sad. Have you seen another movie with Amber Childers?
No, I just stated I've never heard of this actress.
Well, we've got
good things.
We've got Where the Future is Your Past here is the tagline. Where the Future is Your Past. For those listening,
Looper
Where the
2.
Future is Your Past. Looper 2.
Or 12 Monkeys. This
13 Monkeys?
13 Monkeys. Willis loves this theme, doesn't he?
He does. He dabbles in sci-fi.
If he does sci-fi, it's some time travel shit.
Yeah, I can get down with that.
I like time travel.
I like that.
I always missed out on the role of Marty McFly. If only Marty McFly was a cop, I could have played him.
Russ, I think we've got a new character for you to play now. Are you going to become Bruce Willis? Is that the next iteration? Or is it Carlito and then Bruce?
Are you telling me you built a time machine out of a DeLorean?
Yes, Marty, wake up!
Your kids are going to love it. Instead of Johnny Be Good, he does his Bruno stuff live under the boardwalk, his music career.
all that Planet Hollywood shit. Gets the harmonica out. So without further ado, Russ, do you think this movie is called Vice?
Without further ado, in the future, if your kids accidentally set fire to the living room carpet, take it easy on them.
Is it called Vice? Is it called Corrective Measures? Or Die Like Lovers?
What?
Vice, Corrective Measures, or Die Like Lovers? Which is it?
I'm going to say Die Like Lovers because that's a terrible title, and this looks terrible.
This is a sci-fi thriller about the ultimate resort, Vice, where customers can play out their wildest fantasies with artificial inhabitants who look like humans.
This is my Squid Games.
I just gave it away. It's called Vice because that's the name of the resort that is in the tag or in the synopsis. But
it's pretty good, man.
Pretty good.
I like it.
Number 9, Bruce, coming up for you is...
This is all this year? 2022?
Some have been...
This is all January?
No, most of these are 2021. This is coming out in 2022. There's been 2, I think. And then some were like 2015,
Mike
16,
Tyson.
17. Thomas Jane, Clive Standen, Theo Rossi, Mike effing Tyson, and Bruce Willis star in a movie where a man is implicated I'm sorry, that's not it. This is this is a movie where when his daughter is brutally murdered and legal justice looks unlikely, William Duncan takes law into his own hands.
It's personal.
It is personal. So do you think that this movie is called Survive the Game, The Wrong Place, or Vendetta? Survive the Game, The Wrong Place, Vendetta.
This has Survive the Game written all over it.
Bruce Willis does look like he's trying to survive something here.
Hey.
He's trying to survive until a lunch break. But the title of this film, which is coming out in 2022, Vendetta.
I knew it was going to be Vendetta.
Look at Mike Tyson here. And there's like a car on fire. And is that Clive Standen in the back with the shotgun? I guess he's number 1 build. So
I don't
must
know
be
who
the star
Clive
of the show.
Standen is. He's just a stand-in.
He is. He's a stand-in. Good one. Good one. Russ, you ready for the last one?
Yes. Please.
Oops. Sorry.
Hey.
Here. I know we got a little bit of a technical difficulty here. Let me go get my Bruce Willis. Sorry. One second. Here it is. The last one we've got, Russ, is Where Justice Gets Dirty. And this is going to be starring Devon Sawa and Luke Wilson and Bruce Willis. Now, this time the badge is on his jacket, so you know he's police this time around.
Hey, Luke, I loved you in those Jackie Chan movies.
This one... This movie actually just got a trailer as well. It's coming out in 2022. And it is... A man implicated in the triple homicide of 3 Hollywood starlets begins his own investigation. Needing assistance, he enlists 2 detectives on his tail in order to expose a conspiracy more explosive than any of them imagined. Mm-hmm. So is this movie called Wire Room, Gasoline Alley, or Fire with Fire? And it looks like Devon Sawa's the guy that's like in trouble here, and Bruce and Luke are on his tail, and they've got to try to arrest him, but he's like, "No, I'm trying to solve this crime on my own." And
I think Luke is on the bomb squad.
Look, he looks pretty serious too. He's
producing Public Enemy records.
Is Luke doing a lot of this type of stuff these days, or they just kind of needed someone extra to throw in with Bruce here?
I don't know, but Luke Wilson's the kind of guy where he just has a look on his face. It's funny regardless. He can do this kind of stuff, and it doesn't bother me. He had some gravitas to unintentional comedy. I'm going to go Fire with Fire.
Fire with Fire, and it would be Gasoline Alley.
I was close.
Gasoline Alley.
Fire.
Yeah. You're pretty close. But it's Gasoline Alley. So that's about does it for us. What do you think about this slate of...
Does it for me.
Yeah, I don't know. It's quite the slate of Bruce Willis releases. If anyone has seen these movies...
I'm sorry.
Not only are we sorry, but tell us about them. Is there one we should consider watching just for hilarity's sake? We're getting ready to do our first sort of reaction review with a Serbian film coming soon, and maybe we need to torture ourselves with something else Bruce Willis related. I don't know. We've made fun of it enough, but we haven't actually dipped our toes into those waters.
Hey, you. Get your goddamn hands off her.
So if
Wrong character. That was me teaching Crispin Glover his lines.
Is that what you were doing?
Yeah.
So for everybody that enjoyed that, if you want to hear more about Bruce Willis, let us know below. Like that video, If you're listening to this and you want to see what the hell we were looking at and laugh along, come back and take a look at our page and see, this for yourself. It's a little bit funnier with the actual dead looks and dead stares that Bruce Willis has.
Funnier, sad, tomato.
We love you, Bruce. We hope you win at the Razzies this year. You're guaranteed to win. I wonder which one it'll be. It'd be awesome if he showed up.
Tom Green did that for Freddy Got Fingered. I always thought that was great.
Yeah. I don't know that Bruce is ready to own it.
He showed up in a limo.
I don't know that Bruce is ready to own it, but all right. So let's get into some Blu news. Take a little sip of water.
Sounds good.
All right. So the first thing on the list is an announcement that just came out, actually like 2 days ago, without any real information, but it's coming from our good friends at Kino. And that's out this year on 4K Ultra HD from Kino Lorber, is The Usual Suspects. So The Usual Suspects coming in 4K Ultra HD from our good friends at Kino, who have been putting out a lot of great movies lately, not only 80s, 90s, 70s, they kind of like run the gamut. But these more recent 4K releases that they've done, I think they've chosen some pretty good ones. Sometimes they were kind of plucking right out of Criterion's basket.
I feel like Kino, they're really taking 4K seriously.
I agree.
They're really pushing them out, which is awesome.
I agree. And when you
as long as the transfers are good, that's great.
I've only read about like one, and we talked about The Silence of the Lambs. That was one that was a little bit of a miss for them. Not only was like some color timing off, but it didn't really look like it was that much of an upgrade. They weren't really doing too much. I think some audio was maybe messed up too, and they weren't doing like any disc replacement. So some people gave them shit for that. But Dress to Kill was another one that we talked about that they scooped up from a Criterion
never put out Usual Suspects.
They didn't, and I'm surprised.
Or maybe on Laserdisc.
Maybe. I'm not sure, but I've actually never upgraded this other than to Blu. I've only ever had this on DVD. And actually have it here. This was a really awesome special edition DVD that had come out back when, studios still cared. There was a ton of special features on here, a lot of really awesome, like in-depth stuff about the movie, the writing of the movie. Everyone was here talking about it. It was really awesome. And it has one of those slipcases on it that Best Buy has just recently started to do for their steels, where when you take it off, it's like the original art. But when you put the slip on, it kind of gives it like a whole other sort of look, which I always kind of liked.
Mm-hmm. Remember I don't think the film Swimming with Sharks ever made it to Blu-ray.
They had the same thing.
That's what I thought of when you pulled this out. Another Kevin Spacey movie that has the clear slipcase
that comes over top. Yep.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like it. So I never got this on Blu. I've only ever had this on DVD. So I'm actually really excited that this is coming out. The only information that they have at the moment is that it is going to have the Dolby Vision and that it's being sourced from the original camera negative. That's it. From what I'm reading in some of the comments, it looks like the Blu-ray did need a little bit of a cleanup job from where it was at. So they're, these people are looking forward to what Kino's going to do, which what I have seen.
Bryan Singer's movies always look drab anyway.
Yeah, but when
this
you look
made
at
X-Men movies that were blue and gray.
He did.
It's like the most colorful comic books. Like
it's true.
Characters, and it's just all blue and gray.
But I wonder if they're going to do some revitalization like they did with Misery. Because remember when we looked at those screenshots, there was that same like blue sheen on everything, but all of a sudden it looked like it got wiped away, and skin tones were natural, the snow was natural, everything was back to how it should have been. Maybe they'll do that here.
I trust Rob Reiner more than I do Bryan Singer around my kids.
Well, we'll see what Kino has done with Bryan Singer's involvement or not.
Hopefully no involvement.
Hopefully none.
Kino doesn't want to get caught up in any lawsuits.
No, that's true. But it's
How
cool
does
that they're
he keep escaping that shit.
Dude, I don't know.
Has Bryan Singer ever been charged with anything?
I think there's been some. Maybe he was going to get something. There was definitely lots of stuff in the news about him. But you're right. I mean, he nearly directed Bohemian Rhapsody before he got thrown off of it, and that was 2018.
Well, who cares? That movie was doomed to be shit anyway.
But he was directing it.
Take that.
He's
out.
working.
All right. Fuck.
He's working.
I was just about to say this. We're putting these all up unedited now. I was about to say, take out me shitting on Bohemian Rhapsody. I don't want to hear a bunch of people. Oh my god, that was so good.
No, I want to hear Russ's true opinions, and if you don't like it, that's fine. But
I'm not going to go off on a rant about Bohemian Rhapsody.
Well, we don't need to. But I mean, he did direct that movie, and he was thrown off, so he's still getting work as of 2018. I don't know. This movie, however, I am really excited about the fact that, again, I think not only Kino are doing like with their transfers, but like when they grab features, they're typically grabbing everything that had existed, with the exception of some of exclusive Criterion stuff that they didn't put on theirs, but this was never Criterion. So all these features that I really like, I hope make their way over. Cause like I said, there's a lot of really good stuff on here. Now you've seen this movie, right?
I have, yes. I actually borrowed it off you. That was the first time I saw it in the late 90s. The early 2000s. I borrowed your VHS of it. Okay. And I had already, due through, pop culture, I already knew the ending.
Yeah.
So I saw the movie already knowing how it ends. I wasn't that impressed even back then. I think this film, I think it's a great script, and I think the cast has great chemistry. That's it. I don't think Bryan Singer, even back then, but when everyone was championing Bryan Singer, I always thought it was The Emperor Has No Clothes. Like it's drab. Mm-hmm. Everything he's done that I've seen is drab. He made a Superman movie boring. I've never attempted the X-Men movies because they looked so goddamn boring. This, in another filmmaker's hands, I think could have been even bigger. It's just visually, it's nothing. And it's a great script. But even Christopher McQuarrie. Mm-hmm. I don't even think, I never followed him. Did he live up to this? Was that Way of the Gun movie any good? I never saw that.
No,
I know him and Tom Cruise, I think, kind of became.
Yeah. I mean, as far as Bryan Singer's concerned, this is probably one of those scenarios where this is the guy's only notable and probably great movie, except for X-Men and X-Men 2, and I wouldn't call those great, but people look to those as kicking off a little bit of the superhero franchises and what's to come. But after that, like you said,
Spider-Man did that more.
I agree. They were kind of,
yes, it was before.
They were neck and neck with, this is the X-Men group that everyone wanted to see, and it was this is the definitive one. It's not trash. People got behind it, especially the second one.
I never bought into him because
he hasn't done anything else.
But even this movie, as you just said, this is his classic. This is not a classic because of the direction. This is not a classic because of Bryan Singer. It's a classic because of the twist. It was a sharp script, and it's a classic because of the cast. When you hear this movie, when you hear the title "Usual Suspects," the first thing you think of is that improvised scene when they're the cover of the movie, when they're in the lineup and Benicio del Toro is talking his shit and all that. That's what you think of. Nothing at all. They're outtakes, basically. You know what I mean? Nothing to do at all with Mr. Singer.
I disagree.
And this is his best movie. You're right.
It is definitely
easily his best movie.
His best and the movie he's known for, nothing else, even though he went on to direct until recently.
He's known for other things. They just were all subpar, so nobody talks about them.
That's
and
what
this is the only one. And as I said, this movie is not even great because of him. It's great in spite of him. Anybody could have directed this, is what I'm saying.
I mean, I can't, maybe you're right in that regard. I don't know necessarily what he himself is bringing when you look at everything else he's ever done and look at it and these movies aren't that great. So when you look in hindsight.
But what's great about Usual Suspects?
Well, obviously the script is really good. But
not him.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. But as far as how he brought it to life, he obviously is the one that made
the movie. They brought it to life. The actors did.
Someone needed to be there directing what is going on. And I feel honestly, it's hard to say.
It's a step above when did this come out? 95, 96? It's a step above what television movies were at that time.
I'm basically agreeing with you is that I am. It's I don't know what he necessarily is bringing when you look at his further catalog where you're all these movies are terrible. So what is it that he brought to Usual Suspects? Obviously something, but you're right. The script is what it is, but I disagree in the sense that I feel like the twist, in a way, does this movie a disservice because I think that this movie is strong with including the twist, but all people think about is the twist. And I feel like you should look at this movie as it's a great caper film. The acting is great. The chemistry is great. The movie is super engaging. All of it is a really awesome movie. And then boom, there's a twist that is cool. It makes sense. It fits. It really kind of wraps everything up in a nice package for this movie, not just a throwaway twist like some other movies may have. But at the end of the day, that movie is a solid package. But people were like, "Oh, that twist is so mind blowing. Have you seen that movie? Oh, wait till you see the twist." They did that with The Mist. They put that literally on the box. Wait till you see the twist at the end. It's I want this movie to be good, and I feel like the movie is good, including the twist. But I feel like people put too much on the twist. My opinion.
I think the movie puts too much on the twist.
Well, they mentioned.
I get what you're saying, but I honestly think the movie That's what I'm trying to say. It's not. It's overrated. And I take that twist out of the movie, it's a generic television movie.
You know what's crazy about that too is, and this is what is on
with
some of the
great
special
acting,
features,
great performances.
Yeah,
let me say that
performances are awesome.
Yeah.
And you're right. A lot of it was ad libbed. All the Benicio del Toro stuff ad libbed. Half the time when they're like, "What did he say?" They're really asking, "What did he say?" And they just kept that in.
Wasn't he like farting or something? When they were
people are laughing.
That's why they're like chuckling and stuff.
Kevin Pollak and Stephen Baldwin, Brian Baldwin, Adam Baldwin.
The Baldwins.
They literally did not like each other, and there's several times in the movie where they're like face to face.
Nobody likes Stephen Baldwin,
right? But you can tell there's like an animosity there that is real. So like you're right. Like the movie itself is good.
Just kidding, Steven. Threesome's awesome.
But about the ending. So in the DVD, Christopher McQuarrie is there, and he's talking about how he wrote this ending, he wrote this twist, but they had no idea how to show it. Like they didn't know how.
Neither did Bryan Singer.
They were like, how do we show this thing so people are like, oh, I understand what actually happened? Because at the end, I'm going to be honest, the first time I saw it, I was kind of like, so he was like, why does that make sense? Like, what? How did he do that? Like, you're trying to like figure that out. And how do you present that other than how they did it, which was like a montage? It's like, remember when this guy said this? Remember when he looked at that? Remember? And that's how he was like, this is how we basically cracked the code of showing this twist ending. And what's funny is they're kind of, I could be wrong, but I think that might have been the first time when a twist was revealed that a montage was shown to like really hit it home that this was a twist that you just saw. Because you think about Sixth Sense, which came in 99 after, they do the same thing. And other twists that have happened in other movies show montages to remind you of all of these elements that, ta-da, like we did it.
Yep, which proves my point that the movie's weak and it relies on the twist.
I don't
so much so that it's like, hey, in case you all missed it, let me give you a montage.
But you think maybe
it's
that
not
they could have?
terrible.
You think that maybe they could have shown the twist differently? Where he just like walks
honestly,
out and it's like he just starts to walk without anything. I mean, that could have worked.
I mean, I'm not a big fan of the movie. I never given it much thought.
Well,
I'm
F you,
just
Russ.
saying, like,
We're here to talk about this movie that we both love.
It is a film that solely relies on the twist.
I don't agree that it solely relies on the twist.
I'm not saying it's a bad movie. It can, like, the movie can exist without the twist. Nobody would have talked about it. It would have just been, it would have just existed.
What's the thing? It's a mystery caper. The whole time there's someone that's pulling the strings and you don't know who it is. They have to reveal that at some point. And the fact that it's someone that's telling the story is like, oh, it's not one character that we know about. It's this guy that was telling the story the whole time.
Yes.
That makes it a cool twist. But I don't think that the movie relies on the twist.
Not only did you just describe the twist, you described the plot, which means the whole movie relies on the twist. You can't even tell it by saying that, the main character who is the bad guy is telling the story the whole time. That's the fucking twist. That's how you just set it all up.
But you can't say without that if he wasn't him. If it was like, oh, it was someone else, or it was like this real boogeyman guy and they never even showed who it was.
The movie would have been instantly forgettable in 1995. Yes.
I don't think so.
Nobody. And another thing, yes, I do too, because Bryan Singer wasn't anybody at this time. So they couldn't have like promoted it on him, like just like they could with, Apt Pupil or Valkyrie or whatever bullshit he went on to make. Too. None of these people were Hell, Stephen Baldwin probably had the best career out of all of them at this point. Well, maybe Gabriel Byrne. Yeah. Benicio del Toro, he wasn't what we all know him as yet. Kevin Spacey wasn't there yet.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's like an independent movie with like some independent dudes basically at the time.
That's what I'm saying, dude. And like I said, you take that twist. It's a great small film. It's kind of like Reservoir Dogs in that sense, where it relies on the twist. It's like, how do you take something with a low budget and make it interesting? And that's kind of what I always thought they did. I just don't think Bryan Singer pulled it off visually to make it that interesting.
I guess
like I said, when you take that away, when you take, in my opinion, the mediocre production that feels like a Lifetime movie to me in parts, all you have is great performances and a great script and twist, which, dude, that makes a pretty good movie. I'm not shitting on this movie saying it's terrible. It's just overrated. And yes, it relies on that twist. I think more so than The Sixth Sense. The Sixth Sense could work as a drama without the twist. Now, the twist is what sold Sixth Sense as well. They're both in the same boat. But to answer your question, I would say The Sixth Sense works as a movie without the twist, and Usual Suspects doesn't. If you took the twist out of Usual Suspects, it would be a direct-to-video Bruce Willis movie.
Well, The Sixth Sense is it's a surprise that he is dead. Whereas in Usual Suspects, you're waiting to find out who is this person at the end. So you're waiting for something no matter what.
But The Sixth Sense is a family drama.
Sure.
There's nothing going on here besides
it's a caper
film, yes.
Which is good.
Dude, answer that question. What? If you take away the twist, you put Bruce Willis as Kevin Spacey, this would be a movie that we would just make fun of.
I disagree. No,
I completely agree.
I disagree. When was the last time you saw this movie on VHS when I handed it to you?
Yeah,
I feel
20
like you're,
some years ago.
I feel like you're like really thinking on this movie maybe not as not as fondly as you should.
Yeah, like this movie's never been discussed, and this is some like abstract. Yeah, I've never thought about The Usual Suspects.
Never in your life.
This is a big movie. It won fucking Oscars. I mean, come on now. I
it's
have
a
an
great
opinion
film.
just from seeing once.
Because it's a great film.
He didn't win Best Directing Oscar. What did Spacey win for supporting actor? I believe.
I actually don't remember.
Screenplay.
What's crazy?
Basically the same damn thing I'm saying here. It's the only good traits of the film.
Speaking of Spacey, they did interviews later on in life. Obviously, they're always doing interviews for these movies, like Kevin Pollak, whomever. What'd you say?
Many lawyers.
Yeah, no, but I guess Kevin Pollak and was it Stephen Baldwin? I'm not sure. Billy Baldwin. One of those Baldwins did an interview for this movie, and Kevin Pollak too. And they mentioned, as you know, they started asking him about Kevin Spacey, obviously, like, oh, what was it like working with him now that all this crazy shit's come out about him? And they admitted that for 2 days, this whole production got shut down because there was some inappropriate stuff going on with Kevin Spacey and a young actor that was there. And the young actor turned out to be Bryan Singer's like then boyfriend. Mm-hmm. But this shit was even going on like back then.
It was, dude. Bryan Singer.
Yeah, I mean, his shit was like,
dude. You ever watch that one documentary? Bryan Singer put together a whole network. This was like when the internet first started in the late '90s, early 2000s.
Yeah,
a whole network that was basically set up to cast young men and put them in these like, you know, shows promising them they're going to be stars and all that, when it was just one big fucking let's
orgy.
Basically
Allegedly.
Let's see what you guys will do for this.
Allegedly.
Yeah, fucking allegedly. That existed.
Allegedly.
Yeah, here you go capping for Bryan Singer again.
Allegedly. It's alleged. It's alleged. There's been nothing. Don't come and get us, Bryan Singer. We love Usual Suspects, Brian. We love...
I don't know. When's the special edition of Powder coming out?
Did he do Powder?
No, another child molester did. The guy who did Jeepers Creepers and Powder, Victor Salva.
Oh, okay. I was like, damn, is that a movie I wasn't even aware of that he did?
My joke went over your...
It did. It went over your child molesting jokes. It's too early. Well, I don't know if you guys are excited. Russ is clearly not. This movie is, regardless of if you love it for the twist, if you love it for the movie, if you love it for the acting... regardless,
it's just overrated.
It's just overrated. This overrated film will be coming out sometime this year from Kino. I'm gonna have my eye on it. I'll definitely be picking this up when it comes out. And I guess Russ will not be. But when I get it, I will share what a great time I had with it all over again. And Russ can keep remembering about the VHS he watched 20 years ago to form his now solid opinion.
Did I ever give that VHS back to you?
Probably not, dude. That doesn't even sound familiar to me. But moving right along. Moving right along, we've got a slew of other titles that are coming out from Arrow, Scream Factory. Thought we could run through a couple of those. First one, Arrow doing their Arrow thing, putting 12 Monkeys out in 4K. Same old package, same exact thing, just that new 4K disc.
Dude, comment sections have to be lit up with people complaining about this.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't checked out the price, but I never bought this Arrow, and I've never bought this. I've never bought it on Criterion either. I know Criterion has it too.
Even this. Oh, I guess it came out before RoboCop. I guess they were kind of nice and waited, 3 years or something since that 12 Monkeys release to jump into the 4K with it.
Yeah. Yep, and this is coming out in April. April 26th is this 12 Monkeys, and it's the same thing. They're just putting that HDR sticker right on it. It's getting the exact same features as before, and it's sourced from the same transfer. First pressing, just like the first time, gets a collector's booklet. So, and it's available US and UK. So, I mean, I never picked this up. This might be the person that they're after to get these movies, people that hadn't bought it the first time. But I don't know. It's coming back out. I'm assuming you're not going to be upgrading, and I can't see why you would at this point. I don't know.
I'm not upgrading.
How much better is this picture going to look when it's from the same negative, the same, it's just like...
Well, plus Bruce Willis doesn't play a cop in it.
He doesn't.
Actually, maybe he does. Does he? Who knows?
I don't know, but he's
an ex-cop.
A good Bruce Willis role. Yeah, he's an ex-cop. In 1996, a deadly virus is unleashed, and an ex-cop, Bruce Willis, is chosen to go back in time.
Starring Chad Michael Murray.
Ex-CIA.
Chad Michael Murray as 11 of the monkeys.
Also, all of his co-stars, Thomas Jane, Chad Michael Murray.
The monkeys.
Mark Paul Gosselaar. Clive Standen.
12 flunkies. Bruce Willis.
12 flunkies. Oh, that's good.
Thomas Jane, all these
assholes.
Top caliber. All these assholes.
All these other assholes. Give me a break. Also, Arrow putting out Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer.
Finally, something great.
I have. This is a pretty awesome looking set. Now I've never seen this movie before. I know you already pre-ordered this bad boy, didn't you?
I did. You know what's funny? I bit the bullet and I pre-ordered the Synapse Phenomena that was limited.
Oh, you did?
Dude, it dropped to like $41 on Amazon, and I was like,
So you got the Synapse one instead of the Arrow one because the Arrow one was sold out, or?
Nah, I just came across it and it was like limited to 5,000, 41. That's not bad for how good this set looks.
Yeah,
I was like, I just grabbed it.
Yeah. What did this one run you? The Henry.
Well, I haven't been charged yet because I did it through Amazon, so I wasn't charged yet.
Gotcha.
Amazon UK.
Yeah. Well, it's coming out April 18th. I like Michael Rooker a lot, and I've never seen this movie.
Watch this though. He's Henry. Yeah. he's in every damn scene.
And I'm sure he's probably terrifying.
It's
more of a drama.
Oh yeah, definitely. But it's a weird movie, man. It's how do I put this? It is exploitation. It's one of those films. It's better as a film than typical genre movies are, but it's also still a genre movie. So the people who might appreciate it skipped it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's in that weird middle ground of it's actually a very good movie, but it also fits in as like an Arrow release, as a genre film.
Yeah.
You know, and he's great in it.
Well, it
is like disturbing.
Yeah, I mean, I've read the synopsis and a little bit about it. I can imagine it goes like in that direction, and I can imagine him being probably very terrifying in it. But as far as this set goes, you know, it comes with all the usual trimmings. It's got your poster and your art cards and all that kind of stuff, and then the 4K disc has the film on it. But there's no like Blu-ray counterpart. It's like a 4K disc and a Blu-ray disc, but the Blu-ray just has supplemental things on it. Whereas the 4K disc has the movie, but also a new commentary from the director. So there's an old commentary from him, but also a new commentary from him also. So I guess he came back to do it again. Yeah, McNaughton. Yep. Yeah, so he came back. And then the Blu-ray disc has just a ton of old stuff. As also documentaries behind the scenes. Let me see here. Yeah.
Like I'll tell you, actually this movie is not Maniac. If you're familiar with Maniac.
It's not just like first person dude walking around murdering everyone.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, you can take it a little more seriously. It's a gem, man.
Okay.
It's a cool little movie.
Well, they're giving you basically everything they can possibly give you, I think. I mean, if you wanted documentaries, if you wanted behind the scenes interviews, even Errol Morris, Joe Bob Briggs, they come back and they do conversations with this. They in a segment called "In Defense of Henry." So 50-minute documentary. I mean, this stuff. There's a lot going on here. So if you're a fan of this movie at all, this is obviously looks like to be the most definitive you're going to get.
How I saw this film though was pretty funny. It was that adverse effect of kind of like when the parental advisory stickers came out. It ended up being advertising. And so I remember my local video store, I don't know if this was NC-17 or if it was just unrated, but my local video store as a child always had the NC-17 sticker on this. And I knew it wasn't porn or anything, but it was like, oh, a serial killer and it's NC, I gotta watch this shit. You know, I mean, it enticed me for It made, like, you might as well just rate it R and it would have been forgotten and I would have never
Henry, I don't care about that.
It was, so I always thought that was funny. It was not the effect they're going for.
Of course
with
not.
Censored. Well, not censored. You know,
and how far do they take the violence and the gore? Is it like that to that
honestly,
extreme?
To me, it's not. I've seen worse, but and especially what is this 89 or something? I want to say. Since then, it's gonna feel tame.
Yeah.
If you watch it today on a first, but it's more like I said. It's I don't want to paint it strictly as a psychological horror film. It's not American Psycho. It's not Maniac. Yeah, I don't know. It's good, dude. Just check it out. I don't want to. Yeah. It's
not a blind buy.
I wouldn't say to you it wouldn't be a blind buy because I think with these kind of low budget films, it's hard for me to gauge.
Yeah, me too. To know if
I don't know if it's going to win you over because it's working with limitations. So I don't know if the heart of it, if all that's going to.
You need to be in the right headspace, probably in the right mood to watch something like this. Sit down and like check out something that's older, a classic, and so on.
Yeah, definitely.
Did you define this as a classic?
Cult classic.
Cult classic for sure. Yeah, I mean, Arrow's picking it up, so cool. And you picked this up. If anybody else out there is picking this up, let us know what your thoughts are or your feelings. Henry, out April 18th. And then moving over to Scream Factory, they had a couple of releases as well that I know you're also excited about. Happy Death Day. Happy Death Day to you. Fan of these movies? Not really.
I'm a fan of Happy Death Day. I wasn't a fan of Happy Death Day to you. I have the whatever special edition Blu-ray that came out for the first one. I'm actually I caught the headline of this release, but I was waiting until we got together. From what I gathered, are they both being released together and that's it?
So you can get them separately. You can get them separately or together, and it looks like also a month before they're also being reissued on Blu-ray, not by Scream Factory. Whoever owns this ahead of time or already owns this, whatever studio, they're putting these blues back out, and then the month after, or in April, it's February is the blues. Those 4Ks are out in April, and you can get them separately or together.
What is the standalone 4K of Happy Death Day? What does that look like? Does it have any decent packaging, or is it just like no slip?
It doesn't say anything about a slip at the moment. I'm not sure if Scream Factory is going to put those on there. It is all that's new here is some commentary. If you had this Blu-ray before, it's everything from before on a Blu-ray, and now in 4K. Plus some new commentary. So it's not really, this isn't a collector's edition. This isn't anything that they're putting a lot of effort into. They're just kind of putting these out in 4K, and that's really it.
So I shouldn't upgrade.
What do you have? The Blu-rays already?
Well, for the first
The first
one.
Blu-ray? Yeah, I mean, if
and dude, when I say I'm a fan of this, I'm not trying to say this is a great movie.
Yeah.
I had fun with this movie. The one actress in it who plays like the side, basically like the main, bitch of the sorority.
Yeah.
The brunette, she's hysterical in this movie.
not
Hysterical.
Jessica Roth, I guess she's the main actress.
Oh, then no, not her.
Gotcha.
But oh man, that one actress, so funny. Trust me, when we chop this up, you're getting all clips of her.
Okay.
Nothing else.
Well, so director Jessica Roth are the people that come back from the commentary, and that's pretty much it. And like you said, this movie has a cult following, but so I don't know if it's worth double dipping
It's
just
funny, man.
to get the 4K upgrade when you're not getting any new information or
I am
features or
happy.
anything.
I am happy to see it get a little bit of a following. Honestly, this is the type of movie I would avoid at all costs. It was a recommendation from somebody who I was surprised they recommend. I trusted a lot of their views on horror and all that. And I was shocked that they said this was good. I was like, really?
Yeah.
This Happy Death Day movie's good? I was like, all right, I'll check it out. And again, it suffers from things that I think a lot of modern movies suffer from. There's a whole thing involving her father that's like sentimental and supposed to be sad. It could have been taken out completely. The main gripe I have with it is that it didn't go hard enough. I think if they really went hard R with the comedy, not necessarily the violence, if they would have just went harder with if you watch it, there's a lot of jokes. She's vapid, you know what I mean? It's Groundhog Day.
It's Groundhog Day,
yeah,
but
it's Groundhog Day. And I mean, if they went harder, it probably would have been even more of a modern cult type movie. But somewhere, it's like it plays it safe, just a little too much for me to give this a great movie stamp.
Yeah.
But it's enjoyable. It's got some laughs.
And
Not worth upgrading.
When you told me that you'd like this movie, I had never seen this movie before. But when I looked at it, was Groundhog's Day, but like with a killer aspect.
Yeah.
It reminded me of a movie that I watched it came out in like 2005 or 6 or something. It's called Salvage. No, it's it's some independent movie that's like barely not a student film. Like it's just passable enough to where you could watch it and be entertained by it and not be just like cringy the whole time. And it was basically that, where a girl gets killed by someone and then she wakes up and then she tries to go a different route home and she gets killed again and she wakes up, she goes a different route and she keeps getting killed over and over. And I don't even know how I saw this.
Basically the same thing.
I don't know how I saw this movie or I think it's only been released on DVD, but I remember another movie that relies on the twist. I liked the twist of this movie.
You like twists, man.
Well, check this twist out. This one I felt like was kind of clever, where at the very end, where she finally figures out what's going on, it turns out that she is actually the serial killer who is in purgatory for this murder, and he has to keep reliving this murder through the eyes of the person that he killed. So he's like suffering over and over and over again. Like that's his hell, to be killed over and over and over again because he's the one that did the killing. So that's kind of an interesting twist.
I rest my case on Usual Suspects. You just love twists. You just love twists.
The way it was executed, it was so good. Christopher McQuarrie came back. He was on a commentary about it, how he had to figure out the montage. But it was montaged just like it was 2005. So obviously they're pulling from anything.
Even Rocky had a montage.
And then also Scream Factory. Wes Craven's take on werewolf.
Hold on. For our Scream Factory segment, I do want to shout out one thing and Happy Death Day to You. Is that what it's called? My girl again. They brought her back, so that was the only reason I watched the sequel. I was like, hey, the brunette actress that I don't remember her name of is back. That character,
she came back,
and there's this whole extended sequence at the end of it where she has to pretend to be blind. And I don't know if I'm just a terrible person, but I find blind humor so goddamn funny. Like Rutger Hauer, Blind Fury. That movie is like, oh, dude, it's hysterical. There's just something so comical and ridiculous about
a blind person. Are you ableist? What's your problem?
No, because it's so over the top.
I hope there's no one that only listens to us and can't see us because they're blind, but they only listen to our podcast. I hope that you are.
I'm not making fun of blind. I'm making fun of how juvenile and corny the humor is involved. Like she has black glasses and a cane and just
so they
like
really over the top with it.
Yeah, it's the over the top nature. I'm not laughing at someone being blind. Unless there was a twist and they can see. I know you would love that. But
there's a twist.
Ray Charles could see the whole time.
Boy.
You're like, oh shit, I'll celebrate his catalog now.
Old Boy, great twist. Great twist.
Yeah.
Does it rely on the twist? Maybe, maybe not. They did the montage thing. Montage thing wins again.
And Old Boy, the execution is excellent from beginning to end. So, but I will say Old Boy kind of does rely on the twist as well. Okay. There's a movie I love that I'll throw in that same category.
Okay. What about Cursed? Do you throw that in the same category?
It was cursed from the start.
Dude, I saw this was announced. I was like, what's Cursed? I was like, oh, Wes Craven. Oh, Kevin Williamson. I was like, is this before or after Scream? I had never even heard of this. Right. And then I saw, I was like, oh, they just teamed up again and put out some other trash. And it's the same exact story as fucking Deadly Friend. Wes Craven gets this movie, directs it exactly how he wants. Nope, got to chop this. Nope, we're changing that. And then by the end of the thing, he's like, this isn't even the movie that I wanted. This isn't the movie that I tried to make. F it, you know?
Wes Craven, man, Wes Craven got messed with so hard on so many goddamn movies.
He did. That's crazy. It literally, when I read the little thing about it, I was like, that sounds just like Deadly Friend. How did this man have the courage to keep on living after this happens to him?
He got messed with on Nightmare on Elm Street, for fuck's sake. That whole ending where the mom gets pulled through the door. He didn't want to do that at all.
Nope.
He shot it to look stupid because he fucking hated it.
Yeah.
That was all Bob Shea pushing for, hey, we got to set this up for sequels.
Yep. We got to have them get in the car.
And we're old enough to remember when this movie came out, even though nobody knew at the time. I vaguely remember it coming out. Why didn't they push that Scream association more?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because even when you just brought up that Kevin Williamson wrote this, it's like, I forgot that.
Yeah, it doesn't
if this came out and they were like, from the writer of Scream and the director of Scream, this would have been a lot bigger than it ended up being.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But it's getting a collector's edition, just like Deadly Friend did. They haven't named everything that's going to be on it, but as always, there's going to be probably a lot coming out April 19th. 2 discs, 1 theatrical and 1 unrated cut. And that's where I think this is interesting, where did Wes Craven finally get his version out to the public? Is that what that is? I don't know. But clearly the theatrical one is not what he had anything to do with. Even the actors, I think, did interviews and they were like, Jesse Eisenberg's in this. He was like, yeah, this movie turned out to be something that I didn't originally read when I signed up for this. And same thing, Christina Ricci, like all of them, everybody was like, this movie turned out to be dog shit and not what we signed up for.
What did Kevin Williamson say about it? Is he on record?
I don't know. Actually, that's a good point. I'm not sure what he's on record as saying, but he's involved. Interesting cast. Like I mentioned, Joshua Jackson. Also, Milo Ventimiglia.
Don't ever say that again.
Interesting cast.
Interesting cast, Joshua Jackson.
Milo Ventimiglia. Jesse Eisenberg and Christina Ricci. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Did you see this movie? I
see what you mean, though. That's a decent cast for a horror movie.
Did you see this movie or no?
No, I never saw it.
I wonder if it's any good.
I could tell.
Would you pick this up? blind buy it? No, probably not.
No,
No, I'm not
no.
wasting money on this. Okay.
I mean, I shouldn't say God. Let us know in the comments. I'm forgetting we're doing a podcast. I'm just sitting here talking to you and shit.
Yeah.
Fuck cursed.
people
I
wanna hear.
honestly, I shouldn't say that because I've never seen it and I know nothing about it. And I'm a big Wes Craven fan, so I'm not gonna. It sucks that he went through that. He went through that on damn near every movie. Like you said, it sounds like Deadly Friend.
Yep.
It sounds like shit. Yeah.
Sounds like that too.
Sounds like Deadly Friend.
Yep. And then, so hopefully Wes Craven will get, I don't know, maybe his song sung here. I know, rest in peace, but maybe this movie is going to see the light of day the way that he could have only wished it had when he was still alive, as well as Christina Ricci. Rest in peace. I think. Moving right along, a couple of other ones that I thought were just worth noting. Again, you've got The Matrix is coming out again in another box set. Again, this time with the Resurrections, and it's coming in this generic piece of garbage. And again, it doesn't have the Animatrix with it. Right now, $75 for one movie that you really care about, and the other three that are shoved in there.
That's not a bad
It's
price
decent.
for all four movies, though, if the packaging is good and you like all four.
I was going to say the same thing, that if the Animatrix was included and this packaging was okay, like a hard box or something, then maybe I would consider it. But right now, I mean, I've got the Matrix 4K Titans of Cold on the way, and that's the only Matrix film that I really like. I'm obviously probably not even going to be interested in seeing Resurrection, and again, Animatrix not being there, this is a no-go for me. And then Dream a Little Dream, the only two Corey's movie I haven't seen.
I've never seen any two Corey's.
Never seen any. You saw Lost Boys.
I don't consider that.
You don't consider that?
Two Corey movie? That's
License to Drive.
That's a Joel Schumacher movie.
I mean, they're both in it.
That's a Joel Schumacher joint.
License to Drive. What's the other one I'm missing? Dream a Little Dream. And
What's the one with Heather Graham? Is that License to Drive?
I think so.
I know
And
she
there's
was in
Lucas,
one of
but
them.
Corey Feldman's not in that.
I've seen Lucas.
I like Lucas, but Feldman's not in that.
Yeah.
He ain't in that.
Stop bullshitting me, Matt.
So this is coming out from Vestron. I like this label a lot. I always like the movies that they pick. They always have a nice little lineup here. This is their number 25. I think this art is a little silly.
I like Justine Bateman on the cover.
Justine Bateman and Feldman, they turned out okay, but this
Is that
illustration
actually Justine Bateman?
it is.
Oh, why isn't her
No,
name
it's
on
not.
the top?
It's not.
I was like, I'm making a joke, and you
it's-
confirmed it.
No, it's Meredith Salinger.
Dude, doesn't that look exactly like Justine
Bateman.
Bateman?
It does. It does. And then Jason Robards, Spitting Image. But Corey Haim here, I don't know what they did to him. I don't think he looks like himself. So anyway, I think this fits this label really well.
It definitely fits the label.
Yeah.
Honestly, if I grew up on this and knew it, I'd probably pick this up.
Yep, number 25 in the
I
collection.
like how they're doing movies like Dream a Little Dream and The Wizard and
Yeah.
Little Monsters, all these kind of late 80s, early 90s kid movies,
Yeah.
basically. I like them.
They're great.
Very nostalgic.
Feldman.
Even as I've never seen this, just look, I remember the title.
Yep.
I don't remember that cover. I remember a different cover for it, but it's a trip down memory lane looking at this stuff.
Yeah, and I had never seen this movie and didn't realize that Jason Robards and his wife, they have some like ceremony where they're like meditating or something, and their spirits leave their bodies and go into their bodies instead. Like it's like a body swap movie.
Is it?
I had no idea.
Wow. So this is like, that was a great genre there for a
Vice
minute.
versa.
Vice versa.
That's the one I
like
always go
father,
back to.
like son.
Yeah, I always go back to Vice Versa.
Vice versa is not bad.
That one's pretty good.
Vice versa is not bad. I have to admit.
Yeah. Are you a fan of The Wicker Man?
I've never seen it.
What about Across
I've seen
10th Street?
I've seen the Nicolas Cage remake. I never saw the original classic, which is funny because that's up my alley. I've never sat down and actually watched the original Wicker Man.
Well, Via Vision imprint label that we've covered them a ton of times. They put a new slate of movies out, or they're about to, and one of them was this $120 Wicker Man set, which is it's like some final cut, theatrical cut, director's cut. There's a bonus disc. There's a soundtrack CD. There's some huge hard box that it all comes in. Only $2,000. So it looks really awesome for the Wicker Man fan out there. I've never seen either the Nicolas Cage or this original one.
That's a sweet set.
Yeah, it looks awesome. And then the other one that I saw that I thought you might be interested in is Across 110th Street. I know you've referenced this movie to me before, and this is again, Via Vision. They always do a great job with their releases, and they've got some new audio commentaries, some new stuff.
I mean, I've seen
Nice packaging.
I've seen it. I own the Kino one actually. It's not that.
Kino's got this?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, it's not like that great. It's good.
It's good enough.
I'm not spending. Yeah, it wouldn't be anything I'd buy a special edition of, but
Okay.
it's decent.
All right. Well, Imprint, they're doing their thing, and they got those coming out. So if anybody is enjoying those titles, if anybody's interested in picking those up or has pre-ordered them, if you've, I don't think any of these are out at the moment, but if you do pick these up, let us know. Come back, comment on these segments. Let us know what you thought. And now moving right along, Russ, we're going to do some of our poll responses.
Ooh.
So at the end of last year on our channel, we decided to put up a couple of top 5 suggestions for people that are interested in hearing our top 5s and different things. Sometimes we got comments on, what's your top 5 films of the year? What was your top 5 Blu-rays? What were your top 5 this or that? Mm-hmm. So we put a whole list of different things up there to see what people would be interested in hearing. And the one that got the most responses was our top 5 favorite films.
Man, and I don't have a top 5. This is so hard. First, let me preface, best and favorite are 2 different things.
They are.
I think my favorite movies, I could name hundreds of movies that are actually technically better than them, but they're my favorites for a reason, I suppose.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you first.
I can't narrow it down. I don't have a definitive favorite movie. So for my list, I'm just giving you 5 strong contenders that I know if I made a top 10, these would definitely be on it. That's how I'm approaching it.
I'm thinking of it along the same lines. And why I say that is, I think it's hard to say why something is your favorite when it comes to movies. Like I've narrowed a list down to about 5 that I feel like there's a reason why I picked these 5. But then I also think about movies that I've watched 100 times more than these, or 80s movies that I've seen are always just put on in the background because I love it so much. It's like, why isn't that my favorite?
Exactly. Like if we're going to be literal, Don't Be a Menace to South Central is probably my favorite movie of all time. just due to how often I watch it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, there's just some movies that you go back to all over and over and over. They didn't define you as an individual. They didn't do anything to you specifically, but it's like, how is that not my favorite then? So it is really hard to say, why is this my favorite versus not? So the top 5 that I put together, mainly, I've always sort of had a top 3, mainly because these are movies that sort of change my perspective on movies or sort of set me in a direction that I'll always remember that. And I probably wouldn't even be sitting here talking to you about movies if it wasn't for these movies that I'm going to mention. I feel like that's a big reason for me.
That's a good way to define it. I should have approached it in that way.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of, that's at least how I think about it. If someone says, what's your favorite?
Well, they kind of are. I guess I did.
Of course. I mean, these things have all shaped our opinions, shaped our views. Like,
and to your point, I think if you ask anybody what their favorite movies are, a top 5, it's always going to be like your era.
Of course.
And I look at mine, I'm like, wow, all these are 80s, 90s. It's like, yeah, I was born in 82. So of course that's what it's going to be, the majority of my picks.
Of course. And until we can watch every movie from every decade and every genre and say, now I've seen them all. Now this is for sure. You have, yes.
You need to catch up.
So should we start from number 1 and work our way back, or go with number 5 and work our way up?
Mine's in no mine is in no order.
I'll go with 2 how about this? And then my top 3 in reverse order.
Yeah, go in your order. Are we going to go back and forth?
Sure.
So if we go back and forth, I'll just pick one from my 5 that sort of matches the vibe of your choice.
All right. So I've got 3 that are definitely my top 3, but then my bottom 2 of that 5, we'll say them in no specific order, but I'll start off with I Heart Huckabees. So I Heart Huckabees isn't of my era. It was, I think, 2000 and something.
It's close enough.
Yeah, it's close enough. And I mentioned this on our segment about movies that haven't received a real release. This has only ever come out on DVD. It's never come out on Blu-ray or anything else. David O. Russell film, a movie that really just kind of caught me by surprise out of the blue, where it was a movie I watched. It was a movie I didn't really even care for. Some of the performances I thought were good. I kind of liked the message and so on. But upon watching this movie a couple more times and understanding the themes more and the movie opening itself up to me more, I really have to I feel like put this into one of my favorite 5 movies. I think it's one of those movies where as you understand the theme, if it's something that you appreciate, it can definitely hang on with you, what the movie is trying to say. Not everybody would feel the same way about it as I did. That kind of sense of a person who's lost, doesn't really know where their place is in life. And then he kind of gets hooked up with people that are it's this way, it's more this positive way. And then gets hooked up with different people that are kind of saying, no, it's more of this negative way you should be thinking about the world. And it's kind of like you can go two different ways, but ultimately what he realizes is that you need both. Like you need a little bit of this side, you need a little bit of that side. The light, there's no light without dark. There's no this without that. And that's kind of like his realization and the way that
there's value in both.
In everything, in two perspectives. And you can look at that in so many different ways in life, whether you're talking about politics, whether you're talking about movies, whether you're talking about anything. You need both perspectives. You can't push one side away and say, you're wrong, I'm the only one that's right. Everyone has value to add in some way or another. And I think that's a message of this movie, which is deep. And the way that they execute it, I think is great. The comedy is great. The subtle little humor that you kind of pick up on as you watch these movies. I started off like, this was my favorite character. Then, no, this is my favorite character. No, this one is. It's just one of those movies that every time I rewatch it, I feel like I appreciate it more for something different. So
I agree with you.
I love that movie.
It's a great movie. And I watched it because I remember when it came out, you recommended it to me. And I watched it based on what you had said, and I completely agree. It was way better than I was expecting it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. And I own that DVD.
Yep.
And
I want it back. Great soundtrack.
John Bryan.
Yeah,
the John Bryan scores. He actually has songs in there.
Yep, he does.
Knock yourself out.
Yeah, there's songs, there's instrumentals. Mark Wahlberg giving a career performance.
That is I wouldn't go that
I mean,
far.
it's an excellent performance.
You're not a Boogie Nights guy, though. You've never got into Boogie Nights.
I never got into Boogie Nights that way. And maybe it's when I watched it, I've only seen it once. And I saw it when it was like just newly out. And maybe I need to watch it again from a more mature adult perspective. Could be wrong.
How much Scorsese, or I would say Robert Altman, how much Scorsese have you seen prior to Boogie Nights?
I mean, I'm not that deep into Scorsese, but probably all the notable ones. Yeah, of course, all the notable ones. Yeah. I don't know, but where are you at? Where are you starting point? What's your starting point?
I guess I'll jump. So, like I said, mine are in no order. To match yours, since you spoke about that on movies that never made the jump to Blu-ray or 4K.
Yep.
Same thing happened to one in my top five.
Okay.
House Party, 1990. Reginald Hudlin, starring Kid and Play, Robin Harris, Martin Lawrence, Tisha Campbell, A.J. Johnson, etc. This movie, it's just a great adolescent teen film.
Yeah.
Great hip hop movie. Great cameo. Well, not even intended. Like John Witherspoon has a small part. You know, he would get known more in the film world through even Boomerang, which was also Reginald Hudlin, or obviously Friday. It's just so sweet. There's a lot of great messages in it. I love how it's an R-rated movie, a lot of profanity, but there's messages like, you know, the one dude gets drunk at the party and it's like, you know, man, don't play the alky role. You know, he looks like a sucker. Kid and Tisha Campbell are about to have sex at one point, but they don't have a condom, so they decide not to. Like, I liked as a child watching this because I was 8 when it came out, and I saw it when it came out. It felt, because of the profanity and some of the other stuff, like it was cool to me.
Yeah.
And then these good messages, because I wasn't being pandered to. They kind of said, like, I listened to them more.
Yeah.
And it's just so breezy, so entertaining. The dance stuff's awesome. The comedy, Robin Harris is hysterical in this, man. He died too young. It was tragic. To this day, it has to be the first time I had ever learned about battle rapping. I mean, that scene is incredible. It's the PLAY, just here to say hi, asking you, may I tell you about the day? Like, I can rap the whole fucking thing. The ending, it's so hilarious. The last scene of the movie, it wraps up beautifully. Did I say Martin Lawrence? Shit, I totally skipped over saying him in it, didn't I?
Yeah.
He's Bilal, man, the DJ. Just ever since I was a child, my mother knows how much I love this movie. I don't know if I told this story. I was a latchkey kid, always had to go to after school programs. When you sign out, when the parents come in to pick up their children and sign them out, when I was 8, I put up a permission slip next to that sign out sheet saying, like, would you allow your child to watch this R-rated movie called House Party? And I never ended up showing it, but I did get all the signatures, so that's pretty rad.
Man,
it's the soundtrack I had as a kid. I mean, dude, it's just a fun. Like you said, it's very nostalgic. It stands the test of time.
Yeah.
It still holds up. I love that it gets more love as years go on. I think everybody has this sort of innocent attachment to it. If you love hip hop, obviously Kid and Play kind of got pushed in the background through gangster rap, but it brings you back to a real innocent time of that genre and music in general, where it was just fun.
Yeah.
And I mean, like the heaviest problem in this movie is really just, man, I'm trying to go to the party and my dad won't let me.
Yep.
Like it is, I don't know, man. The chemistry's off the charts. Full Force, who play the bullies. Oh my God, I smell pussy. Like, dude, everything in this movie hits, and it's up there with John Hughes or something.
Yeah,
you know.
Wish I'd seen it. I've never seen this movie.
Yeah, even, I mean, you know, if it's a black movie, I kind of hate how it got thrown into that, because like the same people, the same white kids, whatever, who watched Breakfast Club or something should have been watching this as well. Mm-hmm. It's just as good, if not better, than those movies. Man, I love it.
Sounds like you got a long history with this movie. No wonder it's in your top 5.
Yeah, it has to be in my top 5.
Got to be in the top 5.
Top 5.
Top 5.
What do you have next?
So next for me, again, this one just somewhere I'll just throw in that another movie that I saw a little bit later in life, which is 21 Grams. And this is a movie that I feel like has a few hallmarks in it that I always kind of go back to, that I always enjoy.
Well,
and
you've already touched on one. Naomi Watts is 2 for 2.
Double Naomi Watts. Love Naomi Watts. And this was also my introduction to Alejandro Inarritu. And you know, from here, I've seen pretty much all of his movies, and I'm a huge fan of his. But this one just really struck a chord with me. I don't know. You've seen this movie, Russ? Mm-hmm. Yeah. This movie struck a chord with me. Just, again, the performances, the subject matter. It was so deep. It was so, I don't know, sad. It's just something with it just like haunted me after it was over. Like everything that to do with it, about, you know, the experience that Benicio del Toro's character was having, like accidentally running over and butchering this family in his car by accident, and then he's on the run. And then you have, you know, this whole story with Sean Penn, who's having a heart transplant, and it's the Naomi Watts' husband who got killed by the car that Benicio del Toro, you know, was driving, and now Sean Penn's getting a heart transplant from her dead husband, and now they're convening. It's like this whole just concept is just very haunting. It's a little strange, and the way that it's handled, it's done in, at least at first, like a non-linear sort of way. So they're kind of like giving you flash forwards to when Naomi Watts looks clearly messed up. And then they bring it back to where, oh, she's with her family. Like, it looks great. Like all these sort of like stings that they keep giving you. Like, here's Sean Penn walking in the desert with a gun. Like, why is he doing that? Like, and then they flash forward to him and he's like sick in his bed. It's like, they just kind of like F with you as the movie goes on as to these broken people. What's happening? Why do they look so desperate later on, until they finally kind of catch all up, and now the story kind of moves forward a little bit more linearly. But I think just in general, that movie, I don't know, the direction of it, the acting of it, the message of it, the story just really stuck with me. And it's kind of just been up there for me for a long time. Every time I think about that movie, I don't know. Like I said, it just haunts me, Russ. I don't know what else to say.
I mean, I saw it once when it came out, and I remember feeling similarly. Well, it's not in my top 5, but no, I remember thinking it was very strong. I did really like it. I'd have to rewatch it. You're talking about it; it's coming back to me.
Yeah.
But I remember. I mean, that cast. I remember the performances again. Strong. I mean, Sean fucking Penn and Benicio del Toro, Naomi Watts. You can't go wrong, really. There. I remember 21 Grams. Isn't that The Weight of the Heart?
It is, the Weight of the Soul. The weight of the soul. When someone dies,
that's how
much weight you lose. Yeah, that's what they say.
That's what it was.
I think when I think again, just to the
7 pounds.
7 pounds. Yeah, it's Will Smith.
It's the Will Smith movie.
Well, I mean, whenever I don't know if it's because of, I don't know if this is why I think now, because I'm older and I've obviously seen a lot of movies and listened to a lot of music and whatever, but I feel the same way when it comes to music. It's like if I listen to something or I watch something and I feel something, I know that the person that created that art is on to something, at least as far as I'm concerned. And I need to watch it again, enjoy it more. Like I literally was depressed or sad or perplexed or whatever. Like when it's over, I'm like,
depressing movie.
Like when something sticks with you for that long or for over the years and you just keep going back to it and thinking about how that movie made you feel in that time. It's like, there's a reason why I felt that way about it for a long time. And like I said, I don't know if it's a top 5, but it's just one of those ones that I think about is definitely up there. And again, it's it means something to me too that it was sort of the introduction to that director who has gone on to do a lot of really other great things that I love. So, what about you? What do you got next?
Man, what should I follow 21 Grams up with? I'll go Clockwork Orange. I feel like I shouldn't. We've covered since all those editions in 4K came out last year. I don't really have anything more to say about it.
Just it's one of your faves. You just love it.
One of my favorites.
Yeah. Your favorite Stanley Kubrick movie? Also, by default or
yes, no? Yes. It's it's funny. That question's funny because it's almost like you don't want to say Clockwork Orange to that answer because you feel typical. Or like you don't want to say Clockwork Orange. You don't want to say The Shining.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody would really say Full Metal Jacket, but that would be another one where it's like, oh, the masses love it too much.
Yeah,
you got to play it cool.
Yeah.
But nah, Clockwork Orange is probably my favorite Kubrick film.
Yeah.
It meant too much to me as a kid. Read the book obsessively, all that crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, go watch our previous videos though if you want to hear what I think about it. More thoughts on
Clockwork Orange. I honestly feel the same way about my top three. Is exactly what you just said. It's like they're so typical. They're so like
but we're being honest.
Beloved by the masses. It's because they came out when they weren't beloved by the masses. You know, it's like when we were introduced to them. First, we're new to film and whatever else, and second, these things were just kind of getting a little bit of that love, which they now have in retrospect a ton.
Yeah.
So it's like the next three movies that I'm going to say, all of them are like beloved to some degree and continue to have praise pounded on them and new releases and everything else. So I feel like a schmuck, but it's like this is what impacted me. What else can I say?
Exactly. It would be phony to pretend otherwise. We could come down here with some avant-garde list and like The Hustler. There you go. Here's your top 5. You're
all black and white films.
Yes. Okay, we'll go ahead. Follow Clockwork Orange. So I'll have more to say on my other 3.
All right, so following up Clockwork Orange, getting into my 3. So these will be in order. So my first one in the number 3 spot is Evil Dead 2. So this one, obviously, like I just said, I feel typical even saying that, even talking about Evil Dead 2. Like, oh, it's one of his favorite movies. It's like there's been a million releases, a million people have talked about it. There's books, there's video games, there's plays. It's like in pop culture forever. But when I saw this movie for the first time, I was in a VHS store. I saw this exact cover, a skeleton that said Evil Dead 2, and rented it based on that alone. This picture was all I knew, and I rented it based on that. And what I saw after that, I was like 8 years old or something. And after what I saw following was obviously the most like batshit thing that you could see for not the most, but like at that time for me personally, in the horror realm, in the comedy realm, in the indie horror, whatever you want to call that movie, it's out there.
Up there.
And I saw this with a family friend, and my mom, I remember being so angry that they showed this to me. I was never scared when I watched it. I was never appalled when I watched it. I had such a great time with this movie that has some scares to it, but for the most part, it's having a good time.
It's an amusement park ride.
Dude,
man.
It is.
It just never stops. And it's just absurd.
Yes.
The Three Stooges kind of comedy in it makes it, in my opinion, safe for kids. It is kind of a kid's movie.
It is. And if you go back and you watch the Evil Dead video that we did about that box set that was coming out, or any talks that we ever had about Evil Dead, usually we're talking about it a little bit like down, like, when are we going to get some definitive version? Why do they keep with all these cash grabs? It's not because we hate Evil Dead. For me personally, it's because I love Evil Dead and I want the best thing that there is. And I wish they would stop dicking around with all the stuff that they're doing. This is one of my favorite movies of all time because of when I saw it, what it did for me personally, like how, again, it opened my eyes up to just a new world of movies. Like this is like a VHS pick off the wall. Like this is like, just like an exploration, walking in and grabbing something that just looks a little strange, putting it on and blowing your mind. It's like, that's what makes movies great.
You saw it before the first one?
I did. Yeah. I didn't see the first one until much later in life. Probably 10 years later, I probably saw the first one.
I had a similar experience where I saw the first one, same reason. I walked into a video store and it was the old cover of it was like the drawing of Ash with the it was like almost like Clockwork Orange kind of looking. Now I'm thinking about it. And it had the quote from Stephen King on it that said like the scariest movie, whatever his quote was, that was on the cover of Evil Dead. And I remember I had just gotten into like Pet Sematary and all this stuff. I was like, oh, he says this. Let me check this out.
Yeah.
And it was funny. I took it home. I was probably 12, maybe 11. I was like in middle school. But I had seen Army of Darkness when it came out. I'd seen that a couple years earlier. I had no clue Army of Darkness was a sequel. So
yeah.
I was watching Evil Dead and I was like, wait, that's the same dude. And I'm like, this is similar.
Yeah.
And then I immediately watched Evil Dead 2 and I was like, holy shit, these are all connected. This is before the internet.
It is, yeah.
This was before the internet where you really had to like kind of stumble on this shit, or you had to know someone who was in the know. Yeah, man, those were fun days.
They were.
And it made finding movies like Evil Dead so much more special. It just felt like, wow, you wanted to show it. I was the kid in my neighborhood who was showing the other kids.
I showed everyone Evil Dead.
Here's Evil Dead. Here's Clockwork Orange. Here's you've never heard of this. Here's Reservoir Dogs. You've heard of Pulp Fiction. Watch this one. You know, kind of shit like
definitely
that.
recorded it. On a VHS. Definitely showed it to anyone.
I had a VHS on SLP, which is the max amount of hours, 6 you could do, and I had Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness on the same tape.
I saw Evil Dead 1 after Army of Darkness because I'd seen Evil Dead 2. Copied it on VHS, and then it was just in my possession going forward. Then one day on television, I saw the commercial for Army of Darkness, and my head about exploded. I was like, "This is that movie." I was like, "This is Evil Dead. This is that." It's like it's going to be in the theater. Like I couldn't believe that the movie that I loved was now going to be in the theater. We went and saw it the same day it came out. My mom took me to see it in the theater. Friggin' loved it. And then went back years later to watch Evil Dead 1, which in hindsight, I felt like, oh, this is like, the beginning of what he was doing. And this is kind of like Evil Dead 2 is kind of like a remake of Evil Dead 1. Like that's kind of how I thought about it when I saw it in hindsight. But it basically is that. Mm-hmm. But Evil Dead 2 for me, not Evil Dead 1 or Army of Darkness. Evil Dead 2 is sort of what started all this stuff. Bruce Campbell, awesome, like this is all he's like known for anymore as well. But,
and as someone who had a different experience than you with them, I can even say Evil Dead 2 is the best.
It's awesome. It's perfect. It's just right in the middle. It's great of both of them.
It's the sweet spot of everything they were trying to do. Like, you can watch the first one. There's comedy in the first one, but it's not as much comedy. The second one, it's just fine-tuned. Yeah. It's just there.
They nailed it. Nailed it. So that's my number 3. Russ? What do you got?
All right, so Evil Dead 2, that would have been 1987. I've done Clockwork Orange and House Party. I'm going to go... all right, let's get it out of the way. Dazed and Confused, 1993.
I've never seen this.
It's hard saying this is one of my favorite movies because most people look at it as a stoner comedy. I think we've talked about this before. It was packaged with like Fast Times all the time and all that. And then nothing wrong with Fast Times. It's not a bad mashup. This movie, I was 11 when I saw it. It was 1993. It's very funny. This was the movie that something clicked inside my head when I saw it. I was already into movies, but when you're a kid, it's like Ghostbusters. And but I was the kid who could tell you Ivan Reitman directed. I didn't know who the fuck Ivan Reitman was, but I could tell you at 8, 9 years old, Ivan Reitman directed Ghostbusters. But it was always movies like that, like Back to the Future, Dazed and Confused, it was just my age. I was 11. I something clicked. I watched. I was like, man, there's no real plot in this movie. I was like, the only semblance of a plot is whether or not this one character will sign a pledge to abstain from alcohol and drugs, and that's really it. And it all takes place in one day. And I was like, man, movies can do this. Like, that's cool. Yeah. And I was blown away. I was entertained. I wanted to live it. I wanted to be in this movie. I wanted these people to be my fucking friends. Yeah. You know what I mean? And what's funny is that this is Linklater's second movie. His first film, Slacker, that is my experience with Dazed and Confused is what Slacker did to a lot of other indie filmmakers. Mm-hmm. Kevin Smith even said when he saw Slacker, it was like, holy shit, I can make a movie. And that's how Clerks came into fruition. Yeah. And Slacker is similar. I saw that later, but it's kind of like it just keeps going in different directions with different characters. But Dazed and Confused, it was normal enough, linear enough for me to follow at 11, but different enough to where I kind of was like, whoa, I like how you can do this. Mm-hmm. I like how it doesn't have to be all action. I like how it does. It's like the chemistry is insane. Dude, how many people from this movie went on to become
like everyone?
Dude, Matthew McConaughey, Ben Affleck, Parker Posey even. I'm forgetting a ton off the top of my head. But the thing I also love about this movie as well is I'd say this movie's grown with me more than any other film. Whereas when I saw it as 11, I wanted to smoke weed. I wanted to party with these people. I wanted them to be as my friends, you know? And I ended up kind of living that life, honestly. My teen years it wasn't in the 70s, but it was pretty much what that movie is. And when you get older, that whole pledge thing I was talking about with abstaining from drugs or alcohol because he's the quarterback of the football team. The coach wants him to do that. Mm-hmm. I love how important his name's Pink, Randall Pinkfluid in it. I love how important he takes this pledge. And when you're older, and even some of the characters in the movie are telling him, you're like, just sign it and get high. Who cares, you know? But he's taking it so important, he's taking it so it's meaningful. Like, nah, you know. And when I watch it as an older man now, I love how I remember feeling that way as a kid. I remember feeling like, I got to take a stand. You know, I'm going to write this papers over the class. You got to say what you mean. This means something. And it's like at the end of the day, you could have signed it and it ultimately means nothing, dude. Like now I watch it as like, it's so quaint and nice. It's like, it's missing that feeling of urgency that you have as a teenager. Yeah. But you're going back and revisiting these old friends as well while you do it. It's just such a fun movie. Tarantino, man. I was so happy when I heard that Tarantino loved this movie years later through the internet. I even saw a picture, and I know this is coming up in your top 5, but I even saw a picture of him when he was directing Pulp Fiction, like behind the scenes. He's wearing a Dazed and Confused shirt. Yeah. And I was like, yes. And he said the same thing I did. He was like, you pop this movie on once every 2 years or something, and you want to hang out with old friends. That's what you're doing. He said it's one of the best movies ever. I believe he said that and Rio Bravo are like the 2 greatest hangout movies ever made. And I was like, holy shit. All right.
Yeah. So you were on
Tarantino backed me up on this one. Yes.
He vouched for me. Maybe not on Unbreakable.
Not Unbreakable. No, but I mean, it was just nice to hear someone else. And I mean, it got great reviews when it came out, deservedly so. Yeah, man, it's just there's something so magic to me when you capture that synergy, when you capture that man, you could tell these actors were getting along. Like it's I don't know, man. It's beautiful to me. I love that movie.
I've never seen it. Sounds like it's a movie I should see.
I'm afraid. I don't know if you'd like it.
Why? What do you mean I'm afraid?
I don't know. Anybody else, I'd be like, yeah.
All right.
I don't know what you'd think of it.
Isn't that so funny? We just don't know what we'll really like or not. We're somehow we have a nice Venn diagram of things in the middle that just click just right.
You know what's funny? Like I grew up and loved the soundtracks, which is I'm not a big what the soundtracks are. Yeah. I'm not a fan of that genre of music. Yeah. Well, not at all, but like Foghat, it's not like I'm some huge Foghat fan. Yeah. You put on Slow Ride, I'm getting down. It's Dazed and Confused time.
Okay.
Want to rock and roll all night and party every day. I can't stand Kiss, but dude, this is a movie where they literally take statues and make them look like Kiss. Like they steal a statue, kind of like the Simpsons episode, you know? And anyone who knows me, I hate Gene Simmons with a passion. And even I can stomach.
And even you get back.
This movie's so good, I can stomach Kiss.
That should be in your top 5. That is impressive. If it can make you stomach Kiss, it should be in your top 5. So top 2 are left. So top 2 left. So in the number 2 spot, another one that I feel like is super typical, and that is Trainspotting.
I don't think it's typical at all.
I don't know if, I don't know. It feels like it's just one of those movies that's such brand name recognition that it's not like, oh shit, that's crazy. It's like, oh. But it's another one of those movies that just hit me in the sweet spot when I was growing up, and I became obsessed with it like immediately. And I think almost all of these, with the exception of, well, I guess Higher Huckabees we talked about a little bit. Trainspotting and my number 1 share some similar elements. One of them being soundtrack that I loved.
Oh shit, dude! Look, Evil Dead 2 sucks.
Bam! See that?
Top 5.
There it is.
Even showing it, I can't tell.
There it is.
Probably looks like hell. Whoop.
Top 5 socks.
Top 5.
Evil Dead in the number 5 sock slot. But Trainspotting was just one that I saw, was immediately obsessed with. The soundtrack, the acting, the I don't know, just the brilliance of it, the energy of it. It's just the way I felt when it was over. It's got a little bit of everything. And then also going and reading the book after, just kind of absorbing everything about it, you know, and if the movie itself, it's such like, it feels like it plays out like vignettes or mini stories. And that's kind of how the book is plays, where it's like
I disagree.
In the what do you call it? Like the point of view of like a different character is every chapter and how they perceive what things are going on. And I feel like while there is this narrative of, you know, them being on heroin and will this or will this not be their demise, there's like little asides that happen throughout this movie that just make it so playful and entertaining and engaging, and some very sad things as well that come with the subject matter.
Fucking say something.
Yeah, I mean, there's some intense moments that, again, like make you feel something. Like you're feeling for these people, for the situation. Like you feel...
I'm going to cook up.
I don't know. It's like you almost feel like I've never been in that world at all, but it's almost like you feel like you know those people. It's like so personal, a lot of what is being shared and shown. I think there is a little bit of a lost in translation effect with this movie, where some people that watch it, it's kind of hard to understand unless you put subtitles on, especially with the slang. Like you can understand what is being said enough to follow the plot, but there's a lot of slang terms that are used that in fact, in the actual book, there's like a glossary in the back that tells you what these words mean. And they're all on display in this. They're not making this for an American audience. It's like, this is the movie. And now we're trying to watch and like, do I understand what happened or not what happened? Yeah. So I've known a lot of people that have watched that movie and been like, I didn't really get that part because I just didn't know what the hell they were even saying. It's like, that can be a little bit of an issue for, I think, some
whoever
people.
Whoever said that to you is a DOS cunt.
DOS cunt. But again, a movie I could endlessly watch despite the sadness that sometimes that subject matter brings. There's somewhat of a, and I think you and I have actually talked about the ending of this movie where, and I could be misrepresenting your position, so I'm not going to say what I think you think, but I'll say what I think and you tell me if you agree or not.
I was completely wrong. I think I know what you're going to say.
The ending of the movie
20 years ago.
The ending of the movie where, you know, it ends where the main character's ripped everybody off, and there's always like this, you know, internal monologue, or he's there's some narration, and as he's walking off, he's smiling and he's kind of saying to himself, this is my chance now. Like, I'm really going to get things straight. I'm going to get off drugs. I'm going to do all this stuff. Like, I'm going to get this right for real. And I always love that ending because it's not true. And it's like the same thing again that's pretty much happened the entire movie, where I'm going to get cleaned up and I'm going to be better for my friends. And he just ripped off everyone he ever called a friend, and he's walking away thinking, now my life's going to be different. It's like,
hey, he hooked Spud up.
What'd you say? He did hook Spud up, and that's and because he felt bad for Spud, and who shouldn't? Everybody should have felt bad for him. But there's just that. It's not even a happy ending at the end. There's not even hopefulness. It's like, this movie is going to play out again until this man dies. Yeah. Like, that's just what it is. And I don't know, something about it. I don't think that's bleak
at all, though. You know what's funny? This is one of my favorite movies. Also, this would probably be easily in my top 20. And
not top 5 though. I thought you were getting ready to.
Might be.
I thought you were going to drop.
I told you this. My list. You ask me a year from now.
Okay,
hey,
that's true.
Fuck Clockwork Orange. No,
Stanley Kubrick was a hack.
No, but yeah, and it's funny with you and I in particular. Our friendship was, like I said, we met in high school, but we weren't very close. It was just because we played music together. And I remember going and seeing you had not only Trainspotting, but like Acid House. Filth wasn't out yet.
No,
but what was Ecstasy?
Maybe Marabou Stork Nightmares.
I see. Even I never read Marabou Stork Nightmares, but I remember thinking, like, damn, you're like, I did the same thing.
I kept going.
I bought the book when the movie came out in theaters, and I read the book first.
Yeah.
And then I saw it when it came on home video, which would have been like February of my 9th grade year.
Yeah.
And even what you're saying, it came with a glossary in the back and used kind of like, you know,
like a footnote to kind of show like what that meant.
It was a glossary, definitions of the terms
definitions of everything.
Clockwork Orange had the same damn thing.
Oh, did it?
So I was already kind of used to like, oh, this is slang I'm not familiar with. Here's a glossary in the back.
Yeah.
And that immediately was like, oh, that's cool as shit. This has that too. Yeah, I totally misinterpreted that ending.
Because then you said, I think you told me like, oh yeah, he is going to, this is happy. Or not that you said it's happy, but like he is going to correct himself.
I know, dude. I totally misread that. That just shows how optimistic I probably was.
Even the music
15.
makes, it's like,
I know, and I remember this exact conversation. It was like 20 years ago, and I felt so stupid afterwards, dude. I was like, shit, he's right. Yeah. Why did I think that?
Yeah, I couldn't remember.
Why did I think that?
I don't know, but no, I mean,
of course that's what he's going to do. He's going to keep being a loser.
The cycle repeats.
I don't think it's bleak at all, though. I think it's hilarious. The reason why, dude, this is a comedy about heroin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Until it's not a comedy. It's a comedy
the whole damn time. Yeah, the Baby Dawn stuff. That's it.
that brings you back into reality for a second where you're like, this is the true result of what could happen if you lived in this life, and here's what it is. But then they bring it back to you and there's blood shitting the bed.
Yeah.
Like whatever.
It's a comedy about heroin. I can't even think of another movie that I could describe that way.
Yeah.
What's another comedy about heroin? I mean, it wasn't Spun kind of like, but that's meth. But it's done so well. But one thing I'll disagree.
For a Dream. Can you laugh at that? I don't know. Maybe not.
An intentional comedy.
Yeah.
About heroin. No, I disagree with one thing you said though. I don't feel like the film feels like vignettes.
No?
No. And I've read the book multiple times. I'm sure you have as well. Mm-hmm. I think you're doing that because of the book. What I thought was so great about the movie, and who was the screenwriter who adapted it? He did the second one too. He managed to find that throw of making Renton the main character. Mm-hmm. Dude, it's streamlined. It doesn't feel like vignettes at all. It feels like one straight. And I love how they were able to do that with a book that, if you just read the book, it would read as unfilmable.
I agree.
Not to mention every other adaptation they've tried with Irvin Welsh's material hasn't really worked at all.
No.
They tried Filth. They tried Acid House.
They cracked the code on that book for sure.
They cracked it. Not only just, I would argue, and it's a great book. I read it multiple times. Dude, maybe the movie's even better. They're on par, to say the least. Yeah. They are on par.
Yeah.
I've never seen a movie capture that energy as well as the book with that subject matter. Mm-hmm. Like, dude, I can't believe that Danny, all of them, like, it's impressive as hell.
I agree. Yeah,
impressive as hell.
I agree. And the one thing that I think I miss about this, like a lot of these movies, obviously they're all in my past, and like nothing is that new, but I just miss like obsessing about something. You know, you watch this movie, you obsess about it, you read the book, you get the soundtrack, you like, and this is like you said, before internet was like, oh, let me look up all these fun facts that I didn't know about anything. It's like any just material you can find, posters, like, oh my God, this poster I've never seen, get this up on my wall. It's like, I just miss obsessing over something like that excites me so much. Like when you see a movie that you're like this has changed me in some way. Like I feel like we're so, whether it's deep into this hobby or deep into films, or there's just not enough out there that's left that's truly going to make us feel alive again. But back then, that's all this stuff was, and I really miss that about my top 5. I don't know.
Well, let me say two more things about Trainspotting.
What do you think?
One, I'm sympathetic to Trainspotting. Oh, I totally miss what you're saying. I had the Trainspotting poster.
Yeah.
I had cutouts of it from magazines hung up. I had the soundtracks.
Yeah.
1 and 2. Well, here's something funny. I don't know if you feel this way, because I know we're both big into the soundtracks. You might kill me on this one. I can't listen to it anymore.
No, the soundtracks?
I mean, Lust for Life. I like the Iggy Pop album, so I'm into punk rock. I can listen to, but like Born Slippy and all that stuff. It's one of those things where I'm like, that sounds cool. Let me put that on. And about 2 minutes in, I'm like, all right, I'm done. Like, I remember loving this, but now when I listen to it, I'm like...
Yeah, I still revisit all of it. I actually just watched this movie...
Not the movie, the soundtrack.
I rewatched
and
this
I never
movie
really liked the second
ago.
soundtrack all that much.
They scraped a couple of things together that were like inspired by and weren't actually on the movie, but I rewatched this movie not even a year ago, and immediately I was like, I gotta get that soundtrack on. Like, it's so good. Like, I love every minute of it.
I think something like that happened to me similar, where I caught a scene or two and I was like, man, I want to listen to that soundtrack.
Yeah.
And I put it on. And after I Lust for Life, then I forget what it was. It might have been like I don't remember the song titles as well. The one where he's like, when he goes into the toilet. And it's like
Brian Eno. Like,
yes. Yeah. And I had to turn it off. Not that I didn't like it. It was just like, dude, I've played that. I've just heard it too much. Yeah. I got what I needed out of the first minute of this now. And I'm like, all right, I'm done. Let's watch Trainspotting 2 now.
Well, what's your number 2? What's your number 2? I didn't mind it, but I didn't like it.
Clockwork.
Yeah, where are we at now?
All right, number 2. This is a recent one. I want to give recent watches some love, and it's Ms. 45, 1981, I believe.
Ms. 45.
Abel Ferrara, who's become one of my favorite filmmakers. Works as an exploitation film. Well, for those who don't know, it's a woman in New York, early 80s. She works for a fashion designer, a model, clothing, whatever. She's raped twice in the first 10 minutes. She doesn't speak. She's mute. And after she's raped twice, she basically goes on a killing spree, killing any man that
even looks in her way.
Side. Basically, yeah. And what I love about this, it's basically an exploitation female taxi driver. And you could watch it as an exploitation film. You could watch it for some social commentary. It works as both. It's funny. It's violent. Even the soundtrack, there's this terrible, I shouldn't say terrible, kind of chintzy disco song with a saxophone at the end during the Halloween party sequence, which is like the climax of the movie. I love this damn song. I love it. I've listened to it so many times. Why I picked it, to me, it represents my awakening, my reawakening for the reawakening of my love for film. Because about 6 years ago, I gave up on so much. It's like, I'm not watching comic book movies. I can't trust critics anymore. Everything's shit. I don't like all this over CGI, all this stuff. I'm going to the past. I'm going to start watching all these cult movies that I was always aware of, but like just never got around to watching. And that one was one of them. And I loved it. And I've watched it. I saw it for the first time maybe 5 years ago. I've seen it at least 6 or 7 times since. I rarely rewatch anything. Yeah. You know, and I've managed to do it. I've shown my wife. I've shown so many people. Well, my wife. I haven't showed it. Yeah, I showed my wife.
So many people. My wife only.
I showed my wife.
My cat that was in the room too.
Even the cat missed it. But nah, dude, I love scummy New York before it was cleaned up. I feel like we've touched on these topics before. Yeah. But I'm just going to say this. If you haven't seen Ms. 45, go check it out immediately. It's his best movie. I'd put it above King of New York. I'd put it above Bad Lieutenant. Badass. Just so iconic. It's like clockwork. Like even you ever seen the image of like Zoe Lund in dressed up as a nun? Maybe not. It's one of those things like if you saw it, you'd be like, oh, that
I recognize.
Arm. It is. It's just, it feels so iconic. Every scene, dude, you want to read up on her. Zoe Lund, Zoe Tamerlis, crazy life. Crazier than Ms. 45. But like she has so much, I don't know, man. You're drawn to her. Yeah. Like she's just has this weird presence and it all circles around her. It's funny, intentionally funny. Man, it's like I said, think Taxi Driver, American Psycho, but with a female. It's everything Promising Young Woman should have been.
A Promising Young Woman shout out?
No, not at all. Wow. Not a shout out, a condemnation.
That's a good recommendation for your top 5. A movie that I've never seen. If you felt
duped by Promising Young Woman, go watch Ms. 45. It is the movie you were expecting from Promising Young Woman.
Okay. Number 2, Miss 45.
Yes. Oh, I thought you were...
I've already done my number 2. I'm on to my number 1, but I liked your number 2 pick. Good recommendation for anyone. Has anyone seen that? Let us know. I'm sure most people have probably seen all the movies that I'm about to say.
Mine too.
Maybe we'll see. Who knows? But number 1.
I just realized what I saved for my number 1.
For your number 1,
it's kind of funny.
It's like not number 1 at all.
I know. I should have got that one out of the way first.
Actually, this isn't one I like at all. So my number 1, again, I feel like kind of silly saying it, but I'm not bad at it.
Don't at all.
Pulp Fiction is my number 1. This is my Blu-ray director approved sticker on it. Quentin Tarantino. So this is just a movie, like I think I alluded to when we first started talking, is that if I hadn't seen that movie, we wouldn't be sitting here, or you might be with someone else. Like I was a fan of movies up until that point. Like 80s movies, it was just a thing to do. Like there was no Netflix, there was no Hulu, there was Saturday morning cartoons and whatever movies you had rented and hopefully taped if you had that ability to, just watching these things on repeat. And I watched 80s movies constantly. It was just something I enjoyed doing. But it wasn't until I watched this movie that I was like, this is what movies can be. Like I had no idea that a movie could even exist like this. And of course there are movies that he is paying homage to, and there are movies like this that in the past that I could have easily seen, but this is the one that I did see. And the way that Quentin Tarantino himself was able to kind of capture everything that he did for this film, it completely blew me away. There wasn't a scene that I wasn't like just in awe that I had never seen a movie do this before. I'd never seen action like this before, or subject matter, or conversation, or like the I'm choking up. The pawn shop scene, like all that stuff that you were like with just Bruce Willis and the Gimp. It's like that kind of stuff. It's
Choking
like
up over that.
Yeah, I can't believe it.
I've never seen my Gimp fantasies played out on screen.
I know, starring Bruce Willis of all people.
Your number one movie is Bruce Willis.
I've said that before when we did the last Bruce Willis update. I was like, he's in my number one movie, and he's good in this movie. And it's just those kinds of things. I was like, I didn't even want my parents to know that I had watched it until I'd seen it a few times. And I was like, all right, I've got to, I don't care who I'm showing this to. I've got to show this movie to people. I sat down with my mom and dad and watched this for the first time. I watched it with my mom alone. I showed it to anyone who hadn't seen it. And just like Trainspotting, I went and I got the VHS right away. Went and got the soundtrack right away. Posters, whatever I could find. Whatever it had, I got and watched it. I don't even know how many times I watched that movie. I probably watched that movie at least 10 times. Like within the same month that I'd seen it for the first time, just like kept putting it on.
I would come home from school and just, if I was doing homework, I just play in the background and just kind of like peep in and out for like a month straight.
Just kept on going.
As you said, that's I think why we lived back then. It was VCRs. It was, you didn't have a ton of options all the time. It was what you loved, and you soaked it in.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. And I mean, and I'm probably not going to say anything about Pulp Fiction that hasn't been said 1,000 times before. Really, the reason why I even wanted to bring it up, or while we're talking about this top 5, is because it's a movie that shaped my movie going history and going forward.
Me too.
You know, obviously his style as a director, the acting, the stories themselves, the dare you call it twist ending at the end, where what's happening at the end.
Not a twist.
It's not a twist ending, but you're in a place that, for me at least, I didn't realize we were back in at for where you started from, which again kind of blew my mind. I was like, holy shit, this is the beginning scene. They were there the whole time. It's like, dude, you're like 12, whatever, 13 years old, however old I was. I'm like, damn, like one thing after another. It's just like, when's this movie going to stop being so fucking cool? Like that's all it was going through my head watching this movie, and it keeps on going. And you and me, and I think your wife, mine too. I think we all went together to see Pulp Fiction for, what was it?
My ex-wife.
Your ex-wife? No, what was it? I can't remember.
Yeah.
How many wives have you had, Russ? How many wives have you had since Pulp Fiction debuted?
She just really didn't like Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, so we divorced her just then. But we went to the theater to see this for, was it its 20th anniversary?
Had to have been, yeah.
Yeah, we went to saw it for its 20th anniversary. It was right around the time that box set came out for Quentin Tarantino's films.
Oh yeah, that's the one I own.
Yeah, and it
was around when Django came out.
Yep.
So.
And when we went and saw it in the theater, and I had only seen this ever on VHS, and that's how I think we rented it. Someone rented it, let me borrow it, and I never gave that back to them. So I don't know what they owed that movie store, but I didn't get the theater experience. And dude, when the intro, the pumpkin and honey bunny scene happens, and then the title card hits and Miserlou plays, I literally choked up. Like tears came into my eyes. It was that like powerful. Like it was like, wow, this is like my movie in the theater as if I'm seeing it for the first time. So it's a pretty awesome experience. And that movies can still 20 years later make you feel like that. That's why it deserves to be there. So that's my number one, Russ.
I'm not arguing with you about that.
Better not.
Number one, don't shy away from it.
I will never shy.
And I tell you, we're going to do a Tarantino thing. So
yeah. We'll talk about that a little bit more depth. Sure.
Our top 5s anyway.
Sure.
Similar. I'll just say for those listening to just this, same experience. Blew my fucking mind. I soundtrack everything. Yeah.
Yep.
Same. We'll go into more depth.
Sure. Yeah. What was your number one?
Well, my number one, like I said, these were in no order, and my number one feels very anticlimactic now. It is 1983's Risky Business.
Whoa!
Didn't see that one coming, did you? I don't really talk about it that much, do I? I've referenced it here and there, how much I love it over the years, but that's a movie no one really wants to talk about. I feel like I've never met anyone who loves it as much as I do.
I've never seen it. I'll be completely honest. I am a Tom Cruise fan, and I do love Rebecca De Mornay.
You do? Shit, I never thought about that.
I do, bro.
Oh my God, watch this movie.
I do. I like her
And you love Bronson Pinchot.
I do.
True Romance.
Balky.
I'm not joking. Bronson Pinchot, he did True Romance, Risky Business. Hold on, there's another movie he's in that's like great.
Where he's a psychic. What's that one? Where he's like on the VHS cover and he's like floating.
No, but that reminded me. That made me think of Holy Man.
Oh, it's
not that, but that helped me because Eddie Murphy. It's Beverly Hills Cop. Beverly Hills Cop, Risky Business, and True Romance.
That's right, he's in that.
Bronson Pinchot, he's untouchable just because of those three. My man is a legend.
He's untouchable.
He's untouchable.
Never better talk shit on Bronson.
Hey, you better not. He's better than fucking half the people we've mentioned here. He's not starring next to Bruce Willis.
No, he sure shit ain't. Not yet.
He's got some class. He went into the last couple seasons of Step by Step.
Who's next? Fisher Stevens with Bruce Willis. Who hasn't Bruce Willis brought back from the dead yet?
Bruce Willis faces his biggest challenge yet. Chad Lowe.
Oh, God. It's great.
Nah, but anyway.
Hey, tell me about Risky Business, 'cause I've never seen it.
I mean, you know the premise?
Yeah, I know the premise. I know all the iconic songs and imagery that, anyone
I don't
sees
even
through
give
pop
a
culture.
damn
but
about the old time rock and roll scene. I could care less about that. The real great music. Actually, I shouldn't say.
What makes the
old
movie
time
great?
rock and roll is the worst song in that damn movie. It's a great soundtrack. Tangerine Dream. It's one of my favorite
You
scores.
love Tangerine Dream. You
I
mentioned
do
him a few
because of
times.
this movie, and I grew up on this movie. I watched this movie again. Why did my mom show me this? I didn't know what a prostitute even was. I'm not kidding. I was that young. I did not understand it, but I was captive. I watched it. Just like you said, it was like back in those days, you just watched this shit.
Watch it, yeah.
There's a scene where they're getting high and like they're eating ice cream. I didn't know what the fuck marijuana. I was that young. I was like 5 or 6 or something, and it held my attention. And then when you get older and rewatch it, and you're like, oh shit, that's what it's about. It the thing I love most about it, it's a teen film, but it takes it so seriously. Like it's not talking down. It's not pandering. It feels like a film about adults.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's just perfect. She's perfect. Lana, Rebecca De Mornay, Tom Cruise, that score. It has a very, it's funny because it came out in 83 and it's definitely the zeitgeist of that time, and teenagers in general in America was very pro-capitalist. It was very Ronald Reagan. Like think Michael Keaton, Alex P. Keaton, and Family Ties.
Right. Yep.
That really was what, and this is what he's, this future enterpriser kind of stuff. But I love how it captures that and what they aspire to be, this moment in time in American, history, whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Yeah.
And kind of like how he manipulates that from what he learns into becoming a pimp, you know what I mean? And doing all that, but everything his life is up to that is on the line, whether he gets into college and it all kind of comes together to form this one life experience that's going to shape him and make him into a man. And that sounds really fucking heavy, but it does it effortlessly. It's like, it's so great to watch. And it's taken seriously. Like in any other, can you imagine another teen movie where, the two leads, teenagers, are being chased by a pimp, and like it almost feels real. It feels like Joe Pantoliano in this movie as the pimp who's like
him.
coming after him. Yeah, he's
Joey
awesome.
Pants.
Dude, he's awesome in this movie. Like he's typical him, but it feels scuzzy. It feels like shit. It feels kind of real. The ending, it sucks because there was an original ending that was even more depressing, and it made sense for what the movie has. Test audiences hated it, so Paul Brickman went in and they reshot it and all that. Even with a reshot ending based on test audiences, this ending is great too.
Wow.
And it works, and it still gives the same melancholic, like, I'm not quite sure what your guys' futures are, but I feel good about you guys.
Yeah.
Like it's one of those kind of movies where it's like you feel this great resolution, even though who the fuck knows what's going to happen to her? Who the fuck, even him, who knows?
Yeah.
But it just feels like this great experience happened and made them different people. It was cathartic. And for this to be a teen movie, it blows my mind. And Tom Cruise deserved to become a star
As a
after
result.
that movie. And she did too, honestly. She was born to play that role.
Yeah.
Born to play that role.
Has this movie ever come out on anything special? DVD or otherwise? No 4K.
They had a special edition DVD and they had a Blu-ray. I own the Blu-ray. The Blu-ray was just the same thing as the special edition DVD. It actually had some cool features. It had a full-length video commentary with Paul Brickman and Tom Cruise. He came back, to do that, which is pretty cool. There was a ton, because that's where I heard that story about the alternate ending and all that. There were a lot of supplemental features.
I'm sure Tom Cruise takes that movie just as seriously as everything else. I feel like he has a lot of respect for his acting and everything. I think he's a little out there.
What's interesting? Paul Brickman, the guy who he basally went on to do nothing afterwards.
That's crazy.
Like, I think he kind of had a jaded experience with it, maybe. But, dude, I don't know. Just it's like the way it looks, the early 80s, a lot of scenes are at night. And again, I grew up on it. It reminds me of being a little kid in my living room with the TV on the floor, staying up late, like my mom's doing some shit, I don't know, man. And that Tangerine Dream, that score, even beyond that, the original songs, dude, In the Air Tonight, Phil Collins, the way it's used in one scene is awesome.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil it if you ever watch it. The Prince song in it kicks ass.
I think that is a hallmark of a lot of what you're saying and a lot of what I said too. It's like, it's not just the movie, it's like the experience, it's everything.
Yeah,
it's
it's
the
all
music hits,
encompassing.
it's every
I'll tell
note
you,
is checked, every box is being checked.
You know what's funny? I know you know this person, but I used to say this. I said this to a friend years ago once, and I said, the reason why movies will always be my favorite art form, it's because to me, it's every art form combined. Mm-hmm. It's writing, it's performance, it's music, it's photography. It's just all of it combined.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And like you said, when you fire on all cylinders on all those aspects, when it all aligns, you get something that's just
touches your heart.
You can't replicate it.
Nope.
Look at Ghostbusters. You can't replicate that.
Nope.
And for me, Risky Business does that.
Well, it's a solid number one, even if it's not number one, but it's up there, in fives, in the fives,
and dude,
in the top tens for sure.
Yeah, and I could honestly, there's other ones I would probably, The Shining would be up there. Nightmare on Elm Street is definitely in my top 10.
Yeah.
Honestly, White Men Can't Jump's up there somewhere.
I know. There's a lot of movies I thought of too that I was like, why isn't that in my top 5, but this one is? Or why isn't that, it's like, it's such a hard thing to say. So maybe there'll be another segment we can do at a later date where we expand on just others of our favorites or something.
I was going to say, let us know, anyone watching, if you want to suggest maybe like a top 5 of a certain genre.
Year, director,
This
decade.
is a little too...
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough, but hopefully we were able to at least... break it down enough to where that would be somewhat informative and entertaining, and at least you understand and know a little bit about us and our tastes and why we are doing this channel in the first place. So
True.
So for our last, segment here, just want to talk a little bit about, and again, this was a poll that we had done where Russ had, I think, listed about 5 or 6 different directors who would the audience like our commentary on.
And Tommy Wiseau won.
Tommy Wiseau is here.
We're going to discuss his
Come on down, Tommy. There was, I don't know who was like a close second, but Quentin Tarantino was number one. He kind of like...
Was Nolan a close
Nolan
second?
was up there. Inarritu was
Fincher,
up there.
I believe.
Fincher was
I think
up there.
David Fincher was the second runner.
Wiseau didn't make it, but Tarantino won. So thought we'd maybe spend a little bit of time just talking through Tarantino, why we like him, why we don't, what we think about just different aspects of his directing style. And then maybe we could also do a quick ranking of his movies.
Sure.
And where those kind of fall and where we think,
I know where Pulp Fiction falls on yours.
Yeah. Well, yeah, for sure. Number one. But just to get started, there's obviously a lot of people that like Tarantino, want to hear about Tarantino, have been influenced by him. Obviously, the audience, they want to hear what we have to say. But why is he a director that we even like in the first place? I guess is a good place to start. What is it about him that we like? And is there something about him that we do not like, or things that he does that we don't like necessarily? But do you want to start?
I'll start since you just went in on Pulp Fiction. I'll bridge it with that.
Okay.
So my introduction point was Pulp Fiction as well. I was in 8th grade when it came out. My first memory of it, I didn't see it in the theater. I ordered it on pay-per-view. So I don't know, whatever that time lapse used to be from theaters to pay-per-view. There was a little bit of time there. My uncle had seen it in the theater, and he came. I lived with my mother and my grandmother, his mother. So he came over to visit, and I was in the 6th grade or something at this point. Or, I guess that would have been the last 7th grade. And I still remember it to this day. He came in, he was like, I saw this movie, it was effing terrible. He was telling my grandma, this is one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. So this is a Russ movie. This is the kind of movie this kid would like. And I'm like, what
does that mean?
I know what he meant, because he said the same thing. He does that a lot to this day. If there's any kind of movie that's like a pulp, he'd say it about Trainspotting, or you know what I mean, like any kind of what would be a cult movie or something. Even though Pulp Fiction went on to become bigger than that. But he said, but I'll tell you, there was one part I could not stop laughing on, and I hadn't seen it yet. I'm still young. And he's like, there's this part where they're driving in a car, and and one guy, and John Travolta actually accidentally shoots the guy in the face, and then they argue about going over a bump. And he's like, I could not stop laughing. He's like, the rest of the movie was boring as shit. And I'm like, and I just stood out in my head like, what?
That was actually the clip they used when they showed that for some like awards consideration. I'll never forget that too, because I hadn't seen that movie at the time, I don't think. And it was like,
it's a funny,
that was the clip they showed where John Travolta blows that guy's head off.
It has one of my favorite lines in the whole movie that Samuel L. Jackson says in that part. But so yeah, I caught it just like what you said. Immediately fell in love. Was like, whoa, what the fuck is this? The soundtrack, even those songs blew my mind, dude.
Yep.
Hearing Let's Stay Together by Al Green and Pulp Fiction at 11, 12 years old got me into R&B music. I listened to so many 70s, late 60s, and 80s R&B music, and it literally started from hearing Let's Stay Together and Pulp Fiction, and then the Dead President soundtracks a year later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know, dude. Like,
I think that was like when you say like the soundtrack and like you kind of like watch this movie, you know, first, and this was like your introduction. It was like, I don't know how much longer after watching this and diving into the soundtrack and that I moved on to Reservoir Dogs, because I think
lucky. It was really quick.
I don't think I knew enough about where to look for things yet.
I know. Because this was pre-internet, right?
Yeah.
I was lucky. I had a friend who had an older brother, and he was going to go to NYU film school. So he was into movies.
Yeah.
And we would always go in his room and look at like, what does he have? And he heard, or we asked him like, dude, Pulp Fiction, this is great. You know, what is it? You guys need to watch Reservoir Dogs and True Romance.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. I knew I remember True, because that was a bigger movie. I had no idea that it was Quentin Tarantino. If he hadn't have told me that at that time, it probably would have been a year or two before I discovered that one.
Yeah.
But luckily, like within a month after Pulp Fiction, I was able to go out and rent True Romance and Reservoir Dogs, and like that was all that was out.
My recollection too was there was internet, but not as we know it today.
Exactly.
Like you could type stuff, and I remember finding the Reservoir Dogs script and reading that before I watched the actual movie.
Really?
I did. And I was like, damn, this movie sounds fucking awesome. Like, this is the guy that did Pulp Fiction. No shit. This freaking shit sounds incredible. And then I figure out we went rented it or something. And then, or maybe I bought the VHS at that point. I'm not sure, but it was another VHS. And then after that, it was like, that was the only movie that had been out in the time I watched Pulp Fiction. From there, it was watching all of them theatrically as they came out.
Yeah, I think I missed Death Proof and Inglourious Bastards. I did see Jackie Brown and Kill Bills and Django in the theater.
Yeah, I watched all of these I've seen in the theater. Yes. Yeah, I've seen all of them in the theater. Oh, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I didn't see in the theater.
I caught that.
That's
twice.
The one I did not. Yeah.
I caught it twice in the theater.
Yeah, I didn't see that in the theater. I didn't see that. And I don't know why, but I did.
I intentionally went twice because I was like, this movie is so long.
Yeah.
The chances of me sitting down and watching it I have to have a reason. I want to go see this twice now so I can get it
and you mentioned
uninterrupted, you know?
Yeah, I know. That's a big one too to digest. But I think you mentioned the music and what it got you into and that kind of stuff. I mean, I think that's another element of his directing style that I just love.
Well,
there's maybe been I was gonna say there's maybe been like one or two movies where like I think it was Django and I don't know what they did. Was it Inglourious Bastards? Was that the first time and Hateful Eight too that he used like a composer?
No, Hateful Eight was the first.
Was that the first where he used a composer?
Well, Jackie Brown had score music in it, but it was score music that was recorded for other movies.
For other stuff,
like a lot of the score samples and snippets you hear in Jackie Brown are from Coffee.
Okay, gotcha. So it's like musical
Greer.
cues and stuff from that era, but then he puts his own, like, these are the songs I want to include. Reservoir Dogs, or Pulp Fiction's an amazing soundtrack. Reservoir Dogs is pretty strong. Jackie Brown's pretty strong too. There's a couple of stinkers on there. I feel like.
No, I think Jackie Brown's way better than Reservoir Dogs soundtrack.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Reservoir Dogs soundtrack's weak, but I don't blame anyone on that. They didn't have any money.
Yeah,
no one knew what it was.
Yeah.
They probably did all that just to get stuck in the middle with you.
Yeah,
that's why everything else is like hit or miss. Jackie Brown's a strong sound. I mean, Pulp Fiction's more iconic. It's just like the fucking movies. The soundtracks, I'd rather listen to the Jackie Brown soundtrack at this point.
Yeah,
even back then, I think it's a little more. Pulp Fiction, the soundtrack's just a little, it's jarring. I mean, you got like, Kool and the Gang, Al Green. Then it's like Captain Kangaroo smoking cigarettes. And, whereas Jackie Brown, I mean, it's got that too, but there's a little more of a theme. There's a little more like R&B and like, I don't know. It feels a little more like a mixtape where Pulp Fiction, the soundtrack's just all over the it's brilliant, but it's all over the fucking place.
Yeah. And just his use of music and not a score. I think that's an interesting way to approach it. It's like, I'm going to use songs that I love that inspired me or inspired this or were inspired by this era or whatever it is to like keep my story moving. Like this is how I want to, this is part of my storytelling is these songs. And I think that's another like again, it's like his hand in basically everything, like not just composing or anything, but it's like, this is what this feeling of this movie should be. And I feel like without those, these movies aren't the same. Like
Not at all.
I
Not
mean,
at all.
it's like a character in the movie is like, what's this next surf rock song that's going to come on, or this next, 70s, whatever,
I mean,
R&B,
dude,
or, whatever.
I was watching Jackie Brown last night.
Were you really?
I was. And dude, I love when Beaumont gets in the trunk and then Ordell gets back in the car. He's putting the gloves on.
Sinister.
Oh,
Sinister
like,
as fuck.
shit.
Yeah.
But like when you listen to that, it's not a sinister song.
No, but that
Strawberry Letter 20, that's not a goddamn sinister
No.
song. But just there's something about that. He's one of it's like shit. I get like goosebumps. I'm like, I'm in. This is hard.
Dude, it is. It's hard. It is. And it's just, that's a style of his. And I think one other aspect beyond the music is, I don't know that this is every movie anymore, but the non-linear storytelling, something about that I really like. Not just from him, but from other people. And I think watching it from him is what has made me like it in other movies. I don't know what it is about sort of showing or foreshadowing or showing things out of sequence to where you're a little puzzled. And then once everything does come together, it like clicks and you're like, oh shit, that is what it is, instead of just going from point A to point B. Yeah. He's a master at sort of building his movie to where, there is maybe a flash forward or an aside for like 5 minutes or something, and then bringing you back.
It's gotten less and less.
It has. It really has. And the whole Pulp Fiction thing, it's like, unless you picked up on it, which maybe some people did, until you realize they were in that same cafeteria, in that same cafe, it's kind of like an interesting moment where it's like, oh, they're bringing this back. Like, oh, what? John Travolta? I thought I saw him get killed. It's like, why are you bringing me John Travolta again? It's like, just kind of playing with it. It's like, these are three stories that are interconnected, or these are three whatevers. And I don't need to tell it in order. I can show it in this order, but I don't need to.
Well, part of, in Pulp Fiction in particular, what makes it work so well in Pulp Fiction is that so much time has gone on since you've seen Pumpkin and Honey Bunny.
Yep.
But not enough time to where you forgot it, but enough time to where it's not in your mind.
You kind of forgot about them.
Go back. Yeah. So when it goes back, you're like, oh yeah.
What happened to them?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So yes. And here we go. Now we're going to get to see how this plays out with our two main characters involved, which is pretty awesome.
And all you kind of touched on this a minute ago, but the idea of, he riffs on all this other stuff, he does, and he's never shied away from it. That's why it doesn't bother me. He never shied. I've always looked at him as a DJ. It's like he's riffing on the things he loves, which most people, maybe now, but like you said, there was no internet back then. Most people didn't know a lot of their introduction to these genre flicks, these exploitation flicks, grindhouse flicks were through him. Yeah. They were for me.
Yep.
I solely credit him for getting me into a lot of not only movies, but genres.
Yeah.
And what I think is so interesting is he has an obsession clearly with those types of movies, but he is such a skilled writer, and he has like his influences, like an Elmore Leonard type style influence. He elevates that material. He elevates the B movie stuff that he's riffing on, and it becomes its own thing.
He's great at translating it.
Yes. And
he's great at that.
And he's not talking down to it.
No.
He never does that, dude. It's honoring it, and it's cherishing it. It's celebrating it. Yeah. But he's so good at it, he unintentionally is honoring it, and we're getting what we love, but he's like making it better in a way. Not better. I shouldn't say better, but like, he's just bringing a whole level of depth to it. But it's just in his writing though. Because he's not, even in Pulp Fiction, there's no lofty aspirations. There's no messages he's trying to get across. That's something that's creeping into his later films, are messages. But, it's just literally his writing. It's poetry. It flows. It just has this great cadence. And then you get a Samuel Jackson, or you get a Hans Landa,
who can really deliver.
They know they're the instrument. They know how to sing that dialogue. I'm basically quoting him. He said this shit.
Well,
before. But it's so true.
It is.
I could watch Samuel L. Jackson read anything this dude's written. I don't care.
And when you hear Quentin Tarantino talk, you realize that this man is like a student of film to the nth degree.
He is, but you know what's funny? When you hear him talk, you can hear his dialogue. You can hear like, yeah, that's the dude that wrote it. But this dude's a geek.
Yeah.
But when I hear Samuel L. Jackson translate your thoughts, I'm
geeky
like,
words.
the coolest motherfucker in the world over here.
It is. It's true. And it's like, I mean, with a lot of directors, I don't know how many interviews I've watched of other directors, because obviously he's one of my favorites. So it's like, I'm digging into him more, but I don't know that I've ever heard directors on commentaries or on behind the scenes or whatever talk about movies the way that he has. Like
other people's movies. That's the thing. He
like,
doesn't talk about. He won't do a comment. He doesn't do a commentary on any of his own films. He's done a commentary on Hostel. He's done one on Switchblade Sisters. He's never
a film
done
geek.
one. Yeah,
he's a film geek just like anyone. You hear him talk about like, oh, I was raised on Bava. I was raised on Sergio Leone. I was like, I didn't even know what a movie was until I saw these things. It's like he's talking like we talk.
And you're saying Mario Bava? Most people don't fucking reference him. You don't hear Steven Spielberg talking about Mario Bava. You don't.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he dug deep. He's digging deep the way that maybe we should or we do. I don't know.
Yes. And again, maybe I would feel differently if he pretended like he never saw this shit or something.
Yeah.
If he was like that kind of dude who was just riffing on things and acting like, nah, this is all me, buddy. But like you said, any interview, it's basically his opportunity to recommend movies to you.
Yeah.
And that's that glee, that joy. Not only does it come out of him in interviews, it comes across in his movies.
Yep.
Even Death Proof.
They're love letters.
They are. They really are.
They are. What do you think about him inserting himself into these movies as an actor?
Doesn't work.
It does.
He's not an actor. I know he started off acting. I know he tried it. It doesn't work. It works in Pulp Fiction only because we're getting into some because that, as years go by, I feel like this scene is gonna get him canceled.
Yeah.
It works in Pulp Fiction because that dialogue is so cringy to begin with. And you're like, oh, dude, why would you say that shit? Yeah. Right. And it's him, and it's like, okay, you're.
Dude, in Django Unchained, he pretended
Jimmy
to be.
Me, Jules.
Yeah, don't fucking Jimmy me, man. In Django Unchained, he put an Australian accent on. It's like, dude, you can barely act.
At least
why are you now trying to put an accent on?
At least in Django, it's only for like 30 seconds or something.
Yeah, and Mr. Brown, he's only Mr. Brown for like a second. That's fine. He pads out the thing.
Exactly.
That's
if he was casting himself like in main lead roles, it would be an issue.
What about From Dusk Till Dawn? This isn't his movie. He wrote it. He didn't direct it, but he's in it entirely.
But From Dusk Till Dawn is one big wink at the audience
so it doesn't bother me.
And that character is so ridiculous that it's like...
My favorite then I think would have to be Four Rooms, because he's just playing himself, basically.
Oh, yeah.
Chester Rush. He's like himself, just showing up.
Nobody considers Four Rooms.
I mean, I'm just thinking of all the movies he's acted in that he has anything to do with.
Destiny Turns on the Radio, one of my personal favorites.
Oh, and he's in Death Proof too. He's the bartender guy.
He's in Desperado.
He is.
He wasn't bad in that.
He gets shot in like 5 seconds. But let's talk a little bit about then what you were kind of hinting at as far as like the racially charged language, the blowback that he gets from, that's what
everyone on YouTube wants to see is two white guys
talk about racial
Tarantino using the N-word.
Yeah.
Man, how long do we have? I would never. I can't.
Let's just sum it up. I feel like I have a summary for it.
All right. Well, my thoughts on him. First off, let me say I don't think he's going to do it anymore.
Okay.
He didn't in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Before you say, well, there was no room for him to do it in there. There was no room for it in Inglourious Bastards, but he managed to get it in there. So that's cool. I just, as a white man, I could never tell anybody, especially a black person, how to feel hearing that word coming from a white filmmaker, knowing he wrote it. I can't, The only thing I can say is my interpolation, like what I take from it. That word's not going to hit me like that. But what I gather is that he is enamored by black pop culture. That Tarantino, whether it's blaxploitation films, whether it's music, and he's so geeky, he wants to be it. So he's writing it that way. He does the same shit with, spaghetti westerns or gangster flicks, or I think that's just, he's such a giddy lover of that stuff that it's like, basically it's tone deaf in a sense. I don't find it tone deaf, but I'm a white man who grew up on this shit.
Yeah, of course. No.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And like I said, if I found my interpretation of him, and as you said, I've watched this man, kind of studied this man my entire life. Just context. He does not strike me as racist. So I can't, if you want to say that the dialogue is racially charged Or even if you want to say the dialogue is racist, I'll even give you that. But him as a person, I never thought I'd live to see a day where we'd be debating that, honestly.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't debate that he's.
But like I said,
racist either.
I doesn't. Like I said, dude, how do I answer that? I can't. Look, like it's for me contextually, I don't have a problem with it. But I am not the person who has the definitive answer on that.
Yeah.
It's going to be up to everyone. You know?
Agreed. Like that language, that verbiage being called that, it's not something that we're ever going to experience. And so we're not going to have that cringe moment where we hear that word because that's not been our lives. And I think the perspective that I take it as is like, I think art, no matter what you're doing, whatever you're creating, it's going to be challenging. It's going to be something that you do or you don't like, but I don't think that anyone should ever be censored in the art that they want to make. If this is something that should be taken down, maybe make that argument. If this is something that is completely racist, make that argument. But as someone that's just creating something and judge it for what it is, then we should be able to do that. And when you come to his movies and what his dialogue is and the language that he uses, I think you mentioned a second ago, like, oh, there was no place for it in one of these movies or something. I think he has gotten away with it in most circumstances where in Django Unchained, it probably is going to be there. That's the time and place where that word would maybe be used. There's slaves involved. So if you want to be completely accurate, then maybe do it. Now you could take the position that's like, you know what, we could just not have anyone say that word and just still show slavery if we wanted to.
Use Pulp Fiction or Reservoir Dogs as an example. Well, Django is an easier one where you can be like, well, that was the time. This is part of.
I think Pulp Fiction does. I think Pulp Fiction is the only one that bothers me. And I'll tell you why. I think I'll tell you why it bothers me. So like when you talk about Reservoir Dogs, these are...
I can't, yeah, please. I've always, and I know I'm going to pull the white guy, my black friends, but seriously, every one of I love talking. Anytime I meet like a black person who's fucking into movies, who I'm like, whatever. I always get into this discussion because I want to hear it. It's I don't know how does that hit you? I want to hear it. I want to have an open dialogue.
Absolutely.
And you know what? More than one person I've known in my life, they always say it's Reservoir Dogs I can't fuck with.
Huh.
It's always Reservoir Dogs.
Because it's, see, that's the thing. So, okay. So
I don't want to speak for like the people.
Yeah. I mean,
but it's always Reservoir Dogs.
Here's my take as to why it doesn't bother me. These are three dudes that are in a car that are using that word a couple of times. They are the main characters of the story, but they're not necessarily heroes. They're not people that you're...
Are you talking about Reservoir Dogs? Or
Reservoir Dogs.
They say it a lot more than just...
In the car, which are we talking about?
Steve Buscemi throws it around
in the car. Isn't it in the car though? Yeah. Isn't it the whole time in the car?
There's this there's the scene when Steve Buscemi's like, you know what y'all are acting, when Mr. White and Harvey Keitel.
Oh, that's in the okay.
You're acting like
sure. Yeah. So regardless.
Oh, and when they're doing the backstory on Mr. Blonde, and he's like, yeah, you've been in jail so long. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay, so
Reservoir Dogs is pretty fucked up.
I got you.
It's pretty fucked up.
So still, I think my point is still the same. I think none of these people are supposed to be good people. They're not supposed to be shown as our heroes. Right. They're all supposed to be bad people that are clearly living bad lives and probably are going to be dead before the end of this thing is over.
If you think about it, Reservoir Dogs, the black character is the only one that lives.
He does.
Granted, it's a flashback,
but he's alive. But I think, does he need to have that language? Maybe, maybe not. The fact that it's there, I think, paints a picture of these characters that makes it a little bit more like telling me who they really are. They are racist, they are criminals, they are all these things. Now, do I want to watch a movie with racist criminals? Maybe, maybe not. Like, again, you can debate all the angles of this, but as far as should he or should he have not put that language in there, I mean, I think it's like, again, these are the people that he's trying to show you what they're capable of in all aspects of it. Now, where it came to Pulp Fiction, I think the thing that bothers me there is like, I don't know that he needed to say it in those terms when he's talking about the storage. Like, not only does it, here's why, another reason why it doesn't really jive with me is, one, before they get there, Samuel L. Jackson's like, we're going to go to my partner's house in Toluca Lake. He's going to help us out. This is my good friend, whatever. The fact that he gets there and within 10 minutes, he's dropping an N-word to his good friend who is also black, and Samuel Jackson's character isn't even batting an eye. Like, yeah, we have conversations all the time. He calls black people the N-word. Who cares? Like, the fact that there's something between them that he feels comfortable saying that, and there is nothing that he's even going to remark about, that seems a little off to me. That seems like that's not realistic.
I'll explain it. And I hate being the person who's
Explain this to me, Daddy.
No.
Like, what did I miss?
Because
like, I mean, I don't like it. I just don't know why it's there.
Not explain to you. I just mean, like, I'm going to explain it, and I feel bad explaining, because basically I'm going to sit here and justify him using the N-word.
Okay, please
And
do that.
I don't want to do that, but I'm going to justify what that scene is. And this is why.
Like a power dynamic to some degree? Like, what is it?
And this is, at its base, it's comedy.
Okay.
It's a racial joke and a comedy. The whole joke is that, you know, what is Samuel L. Jackson going to say back to him at that point? He just brought a dead dude to his house.
Yeah.
He's in a stuck position.
Right.
And it's like the audacity that he's saying this. The whole punchline of it is there a sign? Or like, it's a joke, and it's a racial joke.
Yeah.
And as we go farther, you know, as we progress as a society, and things, especially through how we all communicate, just on social media and through computers, everything, context is going out the door. Critical thought is going out the door. So now we can't handle that shit anymore as a society. We just can't. Now, being around back then, man, I don't know.
No, dude, I'm with you. It's tough to even talk about. I guess it sticks out to me more in Pulp Fiction than the other ones for some reason.
It sticks out because it's a joke.
And I think it's so like
in Reservoir Dogs,
pointed.
they're saying it in passing.
It's a conversation. Oh, someone said this and that. He's like, does it look like? And he's like staring right at them.
Yes.
And it's like,
because it's a joke. It's a joke. And that's why that one's harder.
I think that's that. And the fact that it's him writing it and him saying it.
But again,
also,
it's a joke.
It's a double.
And again, I can't tell anyone how to feel about that joke.
No, never.
Or to be offended.
I don't even think it's that funny of a joke. Like, I think that's what I mean. It just felt like out of place. Like as soon as he says it, it just hits so hard. You know what it reminds me of? Of Hateful Eight, when Bruce Dern gets to say it.
I knew you were going to say
Bruce Dern drops the hardest N-word I've heard in the history of my life.
But Bruce Dern's character, it's not a joke.
He's completely racist.
He's completely
1000%
exactly.
Racist.
In Pulp Fiction, it's comedy. You're
but do you
supposed to
think
laugh
that
at
he's making a joke, or he's not racist?
I'll tell
you.
What
do you think it is?
Oh no, remove it from the N-word. Let's go back to the Christopher Walken scene in Pulp Fiction that happens about an hour previously.
And he talks about
that's
Japanese
a joke as well.
Yeah, all the.
Well, some colorful language in that scene. Those are jokes as well. You're supposed to be laughing. Now, where are people at
laughing
now?
Yeah, I mean, are we? I don't think I was laughing then.
It's a
I
great
mean, I don't
debate.
know. It's like, I don't know, but it is. It's an interesting. I would hate to say that like it's his legacy. I know a lot of people like harp on that and say this is the reason why I don't like him as a director. I mean, there's plenty of people that I enjoy as artists that I don't agree with their personal opinions, but I appreciate
those
their
aren't
art.
his personal opinions.
But I appreciate his art, right? And I don't know if those are his personal opinions. Look, Quentin Tarantino, completely racist, allegedly.
I made this whole movie just to let people know that there was no sign in my front yard.
And I can say the N-word freely.
Yeah.
No, it's like you said, it's like,
honestly,
as a black person watching it, as soon as you hear that word, you have a feeling, whatever that feeling is. And that's
dude, can I tell you what happened to me one time? I was at a Wawa. If anyone, that might be coastal. If you're watching and you don't know what a Wawa is, it's like a convenience store. They're everywhere around where we live. This is a couple years ago. I had a Pulp Fiction shirt on. Mm-hmm. And I was just going in there picking up coffee or something. And the dude at the register, and he was black, he was like, Pulp Fiction, I love that movie, man. What's your favorite part? I was like, I don't know. And he wasn't messing with me, but he's like, nah, man. He quoted that.
He quoted that part.
And I didn't know what to say. I was like, yeah, that's pretty funny.
I mean, there could be people from both sides of it that aren't white. Like, who knows? Like, it is. It's such a, I would love to have this conversation with people in addition to us, just to kind of like have like more of a dialogue, just to kind of see other perspectives. I mean, I'm curious. I mean, if maybe there's something I'm not thinking of that would change my mind. But again, when I look at these movies, and again, we talk about Bruce Dern, you talk about even the people in Reservoir Dogs, they don't let you know that they're not inherently racist people. Well, they give you the language, and it's like, okay, so I'm watching racist criminals too. Do I turn this movie off, or am I like, all right, let me just see how this plays out?
I'll tell you this. I think the opposite, or kind of what you're getting at with Reservoir Dogs. When you think of, and I know the movie doesn't explicitly state like they're Italian, but they're gangsters, right? I expect real life gangsters in that era to say worse shit racially than what's in Reservoir Dogs, if I'm being honest. You know?
Yep. I'm with you. I'm with you. But again,
you were also told, let's go back into that, I guess, the cancel culture aspect, which is beyond Tarantino. Of course, artists should have the freedom to do whatever the fuck they want, right or wrong. Mm-hmm. Like I said, that should go without saying.
Yeah, and the public
that's
decides
a problem.
if it's worth trashing or not.
In America, at least, there is no actual censorship, but there's self-censorship going on, which I don't like. There's so many movies now to try to check off every box so that they don't offend anyone. And honestly, it was going on in the 90s too. And I think that's what Tarantino was a breath of fresh air at one point. Not that he was the only person doing that, but Pulp Fiction just hit this mainstream level of popularity no one saw coming, you know? And I think it was that sort of irreverence. And it's kind of quaint now to think like, wow, a white guy using the N-word was just irreverence at one point. You know, like that would never be seen as that. And that's a good thing. Yeah. Let me say that. It's a fucking good thing.
It is.
I'm not going to I don't champion censorship. Don't want artists to have any regulations on their art. But art reflects society. We're growing as a society. Like I said, it's good. Let's see the movies reflect it now. Yep. And let's see. I would like to see a movie take on what we're talking
something
about
like that.
Now.
Yeah. I mean, he's still got one left in the chamber, so we'll see. You know what that's
Star Trek.
What that's going to be. Yeah. So, do you want to go through our top favorite Tarantino movies, bottom to top? Sure. We'll go simultaneously. See if how close we are.
You gotta give me a list of top.
All right, so I'll read them out loud.
Well, no,
here's them in order of release.
You don't have to. Just do it. No, it's Tarantino. I can do it. Are we just doing? We're doing written and directed.
Written and directed. Okay. Yep. No out of his 10 films.
No 4 Rooms. No From Dusk Till Dawn. No
just
True
his
Romance.
9 full films. That's it. Number 9 for me is Death Proof.
Same.
Bottom of the list is Death Proof, and I've actually watched this movie recently, and I still didn't like it. I thought maybe I'll be in a different place is what I thought. And I was like, it's still like, there's things to like, but it just just wasn't there. I mean,
cast doesn't work.
The language, I mean, going back to language, the dialogue I hated when it was the second sort of story with the 3 girls like that. I did not like how their dialogue at all. I did not care about any of them. I mean, I like the Kurt Russell character was cool. And I love the muscle car vibe. And I love the crash scene where the people's body parts exploded everywhere. That is like the most gnarly fucking scene I've probably seen in one of his movies. But I don't know, it just doesn't, it ends in a weird way. I don't know. It's like 40, 50 minutes of a chase, and then it's like a roundhouse kick to the face with the credits. I guess it makes sense.
The ending's funny. I like the ending, actually, of Death Proof. I think it's the literal last scene. Yeah. It's kind of funny, where he's just getting punched.
Yeah, and he's like crying. Like
Chick Havoc comes on like right after.
Yeah, immediately. He's like crying after it or something. I don't know. But that's my number 9.
And that's one thing I'll give him a lot of credit. I have always viewed him as a feminist filmmaker. I hate when like people try to put this like, he choked Diane Kruger in Inglourious Bastards. He's a director. If you think, trust me, directors do worse shit than that. I've always viewed him as, think about it, even I've always thought of like the nudity. That was always sexuality and nudity in all those exploitation films. That's missing in his movies.
He doesn't have that at all, really.
None. Never. It's almost like he's uncomfortable with sexuality unless it's feet. But number 9, Death Proof. Same reasons as you. It didn't gel. I don't think he took it seriously. Well, it's funny. I just said he's so good that he elevates B material, right? That's his motif. That's what he does. Death Proof set out to be B material. So it was kind of like, do I just dumb myself down? And that's what it felt like he did. It was like, I'm dumbing myself down to fit this concept. And it was like, fuck, dude. No. Why do that?
Yeah. Well, the next one on the list for me would be Inglourious Bastards at number 8.
Let me think. That's weird. It's same, and I know everyone watching this is going to disagree with us.
We did a segment on Inglourious Bastards before, and we mentioned the exact same thing. And I think your summary was like, it's not cool.
Somebody gave me shit about that.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying. I
don't mean cool in the sense.
I understand what you mean.
I'm going to put on my leather jacket and
it's
hang out with
Once
the
Upon a Time. It's not breezy. It's not fun. It's like it
doesn't have to be any of those things. It's just.
It's not him. Like, what is it? Yeah, like
I don't know what the fucking word is. It's good though.
Yeah, it is.
When I say it's number 8, I'm still giving this movie
better than most.
8.5 or 8 out of 10.
Better than most.
It's good. It's underwhelming for me for some reason.
And his catalog, it is.
Even the music, you go how important that is. That's one of my least favorite soundtracks.
Yeah, not good. I did not like it.
It's got a few good songs on it. I mean, he ripped the David Bowie shit from Cat People. which is awesome.
Yeah. Even the cast, I mean, Brad Pitt obviously is great, but like some of the other people that fill it out, like Diane Kruger, like you mentioned,
Eli Roth,
and then obviously Christoph Waltz. I mean, he was incredible in it, but I don't know, there just wasn't the same feeling as all the other movies for me when it comes to that one. And then number 7, right before that.
And I think we've said this before though.
Okay.
So we give people out there a little bit of positivity.
Okay.
One of his best opening scenes of all time, though, is Inglourious Basterds.
Oh, that's an incredible opening scene. He's got a lot of good opening scenes, and that's so full of tension and
fucking
my God,
brilliant.
it is. It's brilliant the way that was directed and handled. Oh my God, yeah, it was awesome. But Django Unchained is the next one for me up the list.
All right, we're gonna start differing now.
Number 7 for me is Django Unchained.
Number 7 for me. Actually, shit. No. All right, I'll go. Number 7 for me is Hateful Eight.
Hateful Eight?
I've only watched it once, though.
Okay.
But
I'm a huge Hateful Eight fan. But Django Unchained to me, it's like a fun version of Inglourious Basterds with different subject matter.
That's fair.
It feels the same. It looks the same.
It's a revenge.
It's a revenge.
He fell into that trap after Kill Bill of just doing revenge.
Even the way that it was shot, I feel like it just looks the same to me. And it's just a different subject, but it's got funner people in it. You know, like you got great performances in there. Leonardo DiCaprio fucking steals the show. Samuel L. Jackson, awesome in it. Obviously, Jamie Foxx, who I don't really care about too much. I thought he was good. And then the Christoph Waltz character is like a sillier version of the evil guy he was playing like before. But I don't know. I like this one a lot. I do like this movie. I think it's entertaining. Better. It's a good soundtrack. It's long, but it doesn't feel like it's overstaying its welcome.
That's my main gripe with Django Unchained is that it has 2 endings.
I see what you mean.
It should have ended at the one part like where Tupac and James Brown, that song comes on and, you know, the shootout. But then it just keeps going on again. And
that shootout was insane.
Yeah, it's badass. That should have been the end. I would have been happy as fuck if it just ended like they added a little bit more onto that.
Yeah,
that's your ending. But then it just droned on. But I always forgave it. I'd always forgiven it because of Sally Menke, his editor, died
passed
during
away.
that.
I know.
And so a lot of the issues I had with Django, I kind of like was like, all right, bud, I'm not going to ride you too hard on this one. Yeah. But I'm a bigger fan than you. Hateful Eight. Again, it's funny. Hateful Eight was when I realized dude's really putting in messages now in his movies, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I agree with the message he's saying in it. It's an anti-racist message. I completely agree with that. I don't know if I watch Tarantino movies for that, though, you know. And I felt Hateful Eight, the tone was so fucking mean, and then to have this sort of message, the letter was fake or whatever, and it felt, I don't know. It's just a little too much.
I've seen Hateful Eight probably about 5 or 6 times. I love Hateful Eight, dude, and I don't know why. I'm like looking at this list and I'm like, okay, should this be higher? No, it's like I think it's right where it needs to be, but I think it does edge out. It's like this. That's like the bottom for me. I feel like it's like the other 3, like I mentioned, Django Unchained, Inglourious Basterds, and Death Proof. They're all solid, but they're not as solid completely as Hateful Eight on up. And to me, Hateful Eight, I never felt like it was mean. I feel like there's some heavy racist stuff going on, which gives you a little bit of that.
It's mean. I don't mean like it is, dude. You got like Jennifer Jason Leigh's getting punched in the face every day, like you said, Bruce Dern with the hard R. Yeah. Even the Samuel L. Jackson, I made him suck my dick and all this shit. I'm like watching this
dingus.
Yeah. I'm like, fuck, dude. Like, I mean, to me, it's Reservoir Dogs again. It was the first time where I felt like, hey, dude, this is kind of like familiar territory. We're in an enclosed spot with dudes who are trying to figure out some shit.
Nobody else could have pulled it off. This movie is like 3 hours of straight dialogue in 2 places. You have like 30 minutes of dialogue in the stagecoach to get there, and then the rest of the movie takes place in one place, and no one moves except for to maybe go outside into the snow. But anyone else, like, I don't think I could have listened to essentially a stage play for like 3 hours of dialogue, but I was gripped, even though, you know, you're trying to figure out who's doing what behind the scenes, or who's good and who's not. I don't know, just them talking was good enough for me. Just some of the little conversations they have, I just enjoy.
When I say
just enjoyed listening,
at the end, I'd give it like an 8 out of 10. Yeah. It's a good movie.
It's good. It is good, and it's
on
long.
The lower end of my list.
Nearly 3 hours long of just talking, and I think that's part of it too. But I don't know.
Soundtrack's weak.
I don't remember the soundtrack really at all. That's probably why. There you have it. But that is actually above Django Unchained for me. At my number 6 is Hateful Eight. So you were number 7, Hateful Eight. What's your number 6 then?
Are we doing volume 1, volume 2, or are we just doing
that's
Kill
one?
Bill?
That's one. That's one movie.
Kill Bill.
Okay.
Will be my number
6.
Yeah, after Hateful Eight. I enjoy it a lot. Actually, nah. Fuck. Yeah, let's tie 6 and 5. Django, which we just spoke on.
Okay.
And Kill Bill would be my 6 and 5. I've never loved Kill Bill as much as everyone else. I do love it though. I think it's great. I enjoy it immensely. I never. It's a little too. Well, I'll tell you this. What hurts Kill Bill for me is that right after Kill Bill came out, there was I feel like there's so many other action movies with like white girls or just unbelievable leads doing all this Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon shit, to where like for me Kill Bill just kind of it blends in, I think, with sort of all the monotonous bullshit that came out around that time.
I got a weird Kill Bill story for me.
It's I don't know. I'd love to, it's funny, the older I get, I'd like to see that whole bloody affair. I think it would be a totally different experience. As it stands now, it feels disjointed, which it should, I guess, since it's broken up into 2. I'd like to see a balance more. Like, obviously, it's like the first one's all action, the second one's all dialogue.
It's all Western.
Like, yeah. And I'd like to see it married more.
Yeah.
I don't want to see it that.
I know when you consider it as one movie, I think that's the thing. It's like it feels like 2 movies the way that it put together. And then, the whole bloody affair probably felt like one movie, but not
an epic. Yeah. Where this just feels like one long action movie that doesn't have much else going on. It's just action, and then one long, as you said, Western or
revenge pick or whatever it's going to be. And I've
like,
only seen
all the dramatic weight is in the second one.
It is.
There's none in the first one.
Yeah, it's all action and
so it's
badassery.
like I might as well,
Yeah, and I've seen
I'm like shitting on all this stuff. I swear, I love
hate Tarantino.
I love the soundtrack too. Both of them, shit. Like,
they are good soundtracks.
I've seen Kill Bill multiple times. I'm illustrating why they are ranking lower.
Yeah.
So it sounds like I'm being more negative.
I have not seen Kill Bill, the first volume, more than one time. I've seen it one time in the theater. I haven't seen it since. I saw volume 2 about 3 or 4 times in the theater and have not seen any of them at home. I haven't. And that's the thing I was going to say. My funny story is like, still to the day I die, and I feel the same way now, is like back then as a collector, you're promised all this bloody affair shit. I'm like, all right, well, I'm not going to buy these.
I told you
I'm not going to buy these.
I told you I'm still 20 waiting. Years ago. I was like, that ain't ever going to happen.
I'm still waiting.
I knew it back then.
Yeah, and who knows what will or won't happen, but that's the reason why I have not even seen Kill Bill 1 again to this day. I'm like, I'll just wait, and I'm still waiting 20 years
never
later.
happen. That's going to be like Heaven's Gate.
Yeah, well,
it will never happen.
I'll at least wait then until the box set comes out with all the 4K shit, and then I'll own it for what it is. But if he decides to put out Bloody Affair, then cool. But Kill Bill's my number 5. It's Hateful Eight number 6, Kill Bill number 5. Basically, I liked. It's kind of hard to call this one movie because I like the action-esque bits of the first, and I like that Western style of the second. I think if you jam it together, it's like a weird experience, but both of them combined, I think, offer a little bit more to me than what the last ones did. There's that nice Uma Thurman callback too from Pulp Fiction, like doing something with her again, which I really enjoyed, and her performance was awesome. I like to see his take on whatever you want to call, anime, ninjas, and all that kind of stuff. That was interesting.
And that's never something I'm not
old
into
kung fu martial arts stuff. I mean,
even you,
Westerns either. Like none of the stuff that he riffs on am I familiar with.
But I mean, even you referencing the Animatrix, I know you are a little bit more than I am.
Yeah, but not enough.
I'm completely not into that stuff.
No.
It kind of left me cold.
Yeah.
But
well, it's in the middle. It's in the midway point for me is that Kill Bill. And that leaves us with 4 left. Where are you at with 4?
4 is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. It's the most recent one, but boy, did it shoot up those ranks pretty quick.
It will. I've said it when I first saw it when it came out. Wait a while. This one's going to be after he passes away, and there's Tarantino biographies and retrospectives and all this stuff. People are going to be singing the praises of this one.
Yeah,
no doubt in my mind.
It's an amazing movie.
It's what fucked me up on it. I wasn't expecting optimism.
Yeah, true.
I wasn't expecting dude, that ending caught me so off guard. And I'm not talking about the rewriting history of, fucking up the Mansonites and shit. I'm talking about what that statement was at the end, where it's like, man, old Hollywood and new Hollywood, what if that's what he's saying. It's like, what if this culture, this landmark event, which it was big. It was the first time like the hippie movement, the counterculture movement was seen as like, whoa, there's a seedy underbelly here. There's some violence. It was all seen as peace and love before that. And Easy Rider happened, which means the Rick Daltons of the world were fucking on their way out, and the Roman Polanskis and Sharon Tates and that school were coming in to dominate. And he's positing, like, what if it didn't go down that way? What if they both worked together?
Yeah.
And it was like, what if Rick Dalton got invited into that house afterwards and got to hang out with Sharon Tate and them? And what would have been? And I wasn't expecting, like, and I love, to me, it was an allegory for what's going on today in movies. I think that was his way. To me, that was him kind of saying, like,
this is me.
I don't want to be on digital.
Yeah.
Let's let film and digital live together.
Yeah.
I don't like this modern storytelling shit. I don't like modern movies. Let's coexist. Let's not completely throw away the good shit and just build on it instead of trying to cancel everything and start it. And like, I just wasn't expecting that from him.
No, I mean, at
all.
No, I agree with what you said. I think that is an awesome. I
don't even know if he intended that.
I know, and you're right. I mean, everything
I don't
you
even.
said,
That's just how I took it. I don't.
I agree, and I think even the optimism of the rewriting of history. It's like let's take this dark stain off of Hollywood and make it what it should have been or what we hoped it would have been. Plus the optimism of maybe we don't have to forget all the old
new guard versus old guard.
We can blend it together.
Yeah.
But I mean, aside from the message and everything, just the movie itself is so freaking great. It's like such a fun, easy ride through. There's a little bit of suspense. There's a ton of comedy. There's just performances that are just some of the best you've ever seen some of these people like in their careers. I mean, I don't know. And even Tarantino, like he was on Joe Rogan. And Joe Rogan was pressing him about, what's your last movie going to be and all this stuff. And basically he said, this was my last movie. Like, this is it. Like, this is what I've been building up to. This is how I've wanted to show.
Makes sense.
This is it. Like, this is what I want to tell. And this is how I want to be. Of course, I'll have a 10th. And he kind of was playing around like, he was like, I'm not going to do this. But I've always kicked around the idea of redoing Reservoir Dogs in the sense that now I've got the ability to pull it off the way I could have done it or wanted to do it. I'm not
going to lie. I would love that.
And he was like, I'm not going to do that. But he's like, I thought about that. And I was like, that's, I mean, after you just did Once Upon a Time, it's like, if that truly is your ending, give a little epilogue, give a little footnote and something and do something.
I hope it's nothing that we've heard. I don't want to Vega Brothers.
Yeah. Well, let's get to that. Let's keep going on our top 10, but I want to ask you about that too. So we both said number 4, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's an obviously incredible movie. His magnum opus, maybe. But then we're at top 3 and it's basically his first 3 films. So what order are we in?
Reservoir Dogs, number 3.
I'm Jackie Brown, I think. And I feel like it's just one of those things where it's like when I saw them, the order in which I saw it, just like what stuck with me more. I mean, at this point, other than Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs and Jackie Brown are probably like they could go either way, I think. Pulp Fiction's number 1, with then Reservoir Dogs, then Jackie Brown. And you're the reverse. What's your first?
Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction, and then Jackie Brown, and then Reservoir Dogs?
Yeah, you just can't take away. It was lightning in a bottle with Pulp Fiction. It was cultural. It was personal. It was, I mean, it's funny though, because let me ask you this. Let's be honest here.
Okay.
If you sit down to watch Pulp Fiction,
be honest with me.
there. If you sat down to watch Pulp Fiction, get a little antsy in the Bruce Willis parts.
No, I don't think so. What do you mean? What do you mean by antsy? Like it's kind of slow, or you're not into it, or
like
when he gets to the hotel?
The older I get, the whole Butch storyline.
Just the Butch storyline.
The older I get, I'm like, all right, let's get back to Jules and Vincent.
Yeah, slows down.
You know what I mean? Like, it's cool. I loved it when I was like, it's still great, but like,
if I want to see Bruce Willis, I'll watch American Siege.
Exactly. No, and I don't feel that way at all about Jackie Brown. When I watch Jackie Brown from beginning to end, I'm into it. It's unfolding. I love the writing. I love the fucking characters.
That movie I've appreciated that movie more over time, I will say. I remember watching that movie in the theater and being like, this wasn't as good as Pulp Fiction.
And you know what?
Damn. It's like not the case anymore.
I'm going to ask you this. For someone, and like I said, I'm not talking about the N-word debate, but I'm talking about calling him a racist. Can you name me another director who followed up a movie as big as Pulp Fiction with a film that features your lead character as a black middle-aged woman?
No.
I can't think of fucking one. Name me any movie that comes out back then or today, that is about the lead titular character is a black middle-aged woman.
Yep, and it's done
Never.
with sincerity, not
Sincerity.
yeah,
And based on source material where the whole damn book was white.
yeah, true. Yep, true.
I find it hard to call a man racist who does that. You know, like it's just.
There's
I'm
so
not
much-
saying it's impossible, but I mean, it's just I always loved that he did that.
Yeah, and in that one too, you can see
always
how much he
loved that he did
loved
that.
about
Her
and
and
source
Robert
material,
Forster.
all Robert Forster, them as actors and actresses,
Dude,
their
I'm-
prior
I'm-
careers, not just.
I bet
the
there's things
characters,
you
but-
don't even get. Like,
Oh, I'm sure. Dude, I'm
Sid
sure.
Haig. Sid Haig is the
I'm sure.
judge. That's so fucking cool when she's in there, and Sid Haig is the judge. He was in so many goddamn movies with her back in the day.
I'm not familiar with any of those movies, and that's the thing about like him
He's in,
teaching
like, damn
me.
near all of them.
That's the thing. Like I feel like I've learned so much about movies in general just by some of the references that he's made, and I
Yeah.
never saw a single thing that Pam Grier was in. Robert Forster, first movie I ever saw him in, and now it's like I recognize him as a really great actor and other things. It's like this, just what he brought to me as a young person was awesome, and I love this movie more now than I ever did before for all the reasons that you said. Plus the soundtrack's good. Plus Robert De Niro, and what's her name? God, I'm drawing a
And-
blank. Bridget Fonda.
Oh yeah, Melanie.
Yep. Yeah.
To go back to somebody who commented on our page once, I have to apply. I thought about this when I was thinking, oh, we're doing a Tarantino ranking. I remember I gave some commenter a bunch of flack about how The Thing can't be John Carpenter's masterpiece
Yeah.
because it originally existed. I can't call Jackie Brown Tarantino's masterpiece because of Elmore Leonard.
Yeah.
So it'll be Pulp Fiction.
It'll be Pulp Fiction.
Forever. That's how I settle on it now, where it's like, it's Pulp Fiction.
Yeah. Wow. So 1 through 9. So that leaves the 10th movie. There really isn't any idea what it's going to be. Like you mentioned, Star Trek, a horror movie. Like, I mean,
He said he'd never do horror.
yeah, like I don't know what it's going to be.
I'm glad he won't. He said his exact words were like, I would turn it into a comedy. He was like, I don't think I'd pull it off well.
Yeah, I mean, and then obviously he's dabbled in other stuff like whether it be writing or just Natural Born Killers, From Dusk Till Dawn, True Romance, Four
Ooh,
Rooms, like all those.
Don't credit Natural Born Killers to him.
All of those movies kind of like have his name attached to some degree or another, but
And not if he had his way. He did not want his name on Natural Born
Get my
Killers.
name off.
That he did. He
Yeah.
fought to get his name off. Because of the Writers Guild Awards, they had to keep it on there, so they just gave him Story.
Yeah.
But he fought. He was like, get my fucking name off that.
Wow.
Without even seeing it.
Yeah.
He knew Pulp Fiction was about to go through
He
the
needed
roof.
that. Yeah.
And he was like, I'm in control of my brand now.
Yeah.
Where it was like,
Smart.
this is not me. So Oliver Stone, you did something completely different. I don't want this attached to me.
Yeah. Wow.
And
Smart enough.
I love Natural Born Killers, so I don't know. It wouldn't have bothered me if he took credit for it. It doesn't feel like Tarantino at
Yeah.
all. But I mean, yeah.
Who knows? Well, let us know down below what your top 5 is, your top 9 is of Tarantino. If you agree, if you disagree, if there's anything that you heard us say that you want us to, you want to rebut or want us to maybe come back to and go into a little bit further detail. But hope everyone enjoyed this week. Russ, thank you so much for joining.
Thank
hanging
you,
in.
Matt. Thank
It's been
you.
a pleasure. If you are, again, listening, don't forget to check out our YouTube channel where you see all the visuals and a little bit extra stuff that maybe did not appear on this podcast.
And don't forget to subscribe.
Yes,
and
please.
Set up your notifications. Make sure you're getting them. Recommend our page to a friend. Listen 4 or 5 times instead of 1 next time.
Please keep
Support
hitting repeat.
physical media. Support us.
No, yes, please. And thank you to everyone again for making our channel 1,000 strong. We're looking forward to keeping on bringing the same quality conversations, Blu News, and more to you every single week that we possibly can. And we'll see you next time.